Hey, everybody! It is Thursday, and this is the one that's got everybody hyped for the longest time. We have just a nobody here named Mr. Brad Henderson that everybody's been looking forward to. How we doing,
That's
Brad?
It's what I consider myself, a nobody. But yeah, no, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me on the show, and whoever's watching, thank you for tuning in. This channel's always cool because I first caught this channel, what you were doing, just kind of being online or Facebook or whatever it was, and I saw a video and like the breakdown of the package, and I'm like, wow, let's see if this guy's got it right, and you did. I was like, oh shit, like this is pretty informative for people, because like we sometimes we say it till we're blue in the face, we put it in emails, and some people, it's also good to have like someone like explain it versus reading, so it's always nice that you do those videos and talk up the package, and you understand how much savings it is, and we try to get that across, right. So thank you for that.
And for the people that have never done it, that's a lot to digest, that it's so much money at once that it might still be saving you money.
Yeah, and you don't know what you're going to get either. That's the
Exactly.
thing. We keep everything pretty much a secret. And I guess we give like 6 or 7, 8 titles, like what we're doing through the year, and give an idea of what you're going to get. I mean, it's for someone that buys movies, like I have this row here, then it's a long wall here, and then a wall there of all the same stuff. So like, when I said in this, I still am. I consume and buy physical media. I was a Vinegar Syndrome fan before I started working there. Right. So I totally get it. I mean, I buy Arrow and Severin, Mondo Macabro. I mean, behind me is like Scream Factory and all the other partner labels. I mean, yeah, I consume as much as everybody else, probably more. But I've been buying movies ever since I was a little kid. Don't use the term collecting. Right. People ask that, because to me, sorry if I'm old, I think collecting, and I do see this like in the groups and stuff. Collecting is something that you take and you keep and you put away. Right. I watch everything, open it up. I used to open my movies in the car when my mom used to take me to Best Buy. So I don't really say collecting. I don't really collect anything. I just buy and consume and watch as much as I can, and everything like that. So sorry, I probably took the show away from you. Go ahead, do your thing.
No, you're good. I mean, showing that passion is important, and one of the things I was going to point out is that you are transparent, first of all, about your passions. And speaking of all the labels that you brought up, one of the things you brought up was that you just watched the new Arrow RoboCop 4K, and there is people out there complaining constantly about these 4K upgrades, and we're gonna go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say I understand where they're coming from as a buyer, but I guess maybe again I view it a little bit differently, because I understand like what hoops you have to jump through,
right?
And to do that, to be fair, like for the RoboCop thing, because I mean, last night it was like I'm going to talk about like how awesome it was, and then there was like all these people out of the woodwork. They were like, "Yeah, it sucked." I was like, "No." So what happens is that RoboCop came out in like 2019.
Yep.
That Blu-ray set that everybody, a lot of people bought, which is an awesome set. So in November, I believe, of 2019, we announced Tammy and the T-Rex in September. And then we had the upgrade of the 4K when we determined that we were doing it kind of in November. So I'm not saying that Vinegar Syndrome built this mold. We were one of the very first boutique labels, to actually take on that format when practically big studios at the time. And we wanted to make sure, one, people wanted it, two, it's financially feasible and a good idea. And 3, if we were going to do it, we were going to do it correctly, because we're not going to half-ass and upscale things like studios do. Not all studios do that, but there is upscaling, and I don't really believe in 4K.
There's a lot of that going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, that's another conversation. So, they're launching that. They don't know that RoboCop is going to be, I mean, they're going to do well on the Blu-ray, but it's okay that people are talking. They've already worked probably a couple years on securing the rights and doing that restoration on that film. So, of course, I mean, they waited, and it's probably until license was up to redo it. I mean, it's been 3 years, which is a really long time, when you break it down. I mean, I know time flies, and that's probably what it seems like. Maybe they didn't pick it up the day that it came out. Maybe they picked it up like 2 years later, which I can understand. Like, you just bought it last 6 months ago, and then this 4K comes out. I can understand that being frustrating for you. I really don't think that has anything to do with the company. Right. They have an opportunity to upgrade, film, and that's exactly what they did. So
we have
anyways,
a handful of those tonight that we're going to talk about that were announced this last week, and it seems like I mean, even technically, here I'll just throw up on the screen the first Vinegar Syndrome from this week is one that people are saying, well, I already had this, and now I don't need it in 4K. But I don't get that. I mean, the original release for this is old at this point, and not to mention different format. But even the way that Blu-rays were done when this came out, we've improved greatly since then.
Yeah. I mean, the technology is there, and the opportunity is there for us as a company, and it's just something that we wanted to do. I mean, that's essentially why Death Wish 2 come out. I mean, there's a lot of Death Wish fans in our company.
Of course.
It's just this popped up to do, so that's exactly why. And a lot of this stuff becomes out of print too, and then you have this new wave of people that are buying movies, or the term collectors. And it sucks when you have to pay. If you want a movie, you have to pay eBay prices or scalp prices for this stuff. So and honestly, the point is that these movies really shouldn't go out of circulation. Especially Death Wish 2. I mean, some of the stuff that we do, I mean, I say that, and we have limited edition VSA titles, but again, how well are those going to do long term with carrying a license for X amount of years, or how many are we going to print? Are they going to sell forever? No. Some of these things, we have great movies on our catalog, and then we have, fine movies in our catalog. Some stuff that I don't really consider that, I'm not going to champion every single title we've done, because I don't like some of the movies, but that's part of the taste. I mean, we're a collective taste as a group. I'm outnumbered on certain things. It's not that I would ever probably not approve of it anyway. It's not like, oh, I don't want to do that, let's not do it. No, it's more or less like, well, yeah, I don't really care for that movie, but I understand people want it, and vice versa. And a lot of these films just need to have that they were never given. And sometimes it doesn't matter if they're really bad or really good. It just matters about because I think that sometimes people are, the fans, and just people in general, not just so much the fans, that our mission statement is a film preservation company. Course, it's about preserving these movies so they don't disappear.
It's literally the name of the company.
Right, yeah, and we don't willy-nilly pick these movies. Like, there's a lot of time that goes into it. A lot of decision making, also what can we do with it? Can we do a 4K UHD on something wacky? But yeah, I mean, there's so many factors that go into every decision that we make. But there's just a handful of us, and I believe we make the right decisions, even though some people don't maybe agree. But it's not the point. The point is to get these movies out. Because I see a lot of people shit on Through the Fire, and I'm actually a huge fan of Through the Fire, and it's not liked. But there's movies that people like that, maybe I don't really care for. I always joke about Death Row Game Show. I can't stand that movie. But it's not about whether you can stand it. It's about like how, if we don't do it, who else will? And if somebody else does it, will they do it as well as we do? Because even if it's Beastmaster or Through the Fire, even though it's a UHD and a regular Blu-ray, they both got the same treatment.
Right.
I mean, I understand that maybe there's a documentary, a great documentary, I might add, on the Beastmaster disc. And, we did a handful of interviews for Through the Fire, but also 2 commentaries as the edit for the Gates of Hell 2 version of the film that was released on tape. So, I mean, we could, as much as people wanted to, and we had like 3 interviews and 2 comments, which is pretty good for Through the Fire. I would
movie that a lot of people had never even heard of.
Special effects stuff. Yeah, and it was a movie that I've really liked. I understand why people don't like it. It's super lo-fi. It's weird. Obviously they wanted to be bigger. That's a movie that I consider that needs a remake. Because it has this like the what's the name of the group, like the Order of Light or something like that. I forget what is the disciples of whatever. Like that would have been cool to see them blast some demons in that that vacant building at the end. Yeah, sure, but that's not the movie we got. But anyways, that's just one of the decisions of the many decisions and calculations that we make as a company.
One of the things that we talk about on here all the time, and people watching probably tired of me saying this, but I always say every single movie has been somebody's favorite movie, and it deserves the best treatment that we can possibly give it. And
I completely agree.
Every time we hear about one of these movies literally being lost to time, lost to Hurricane Sandy, lost to the country of Brazil not preserving their stuff properly, it's depressing as hell how much history we've lost, how much art is just gone.
No, I mean, there's fires in studios. I mean, Universal has had a few fires through their time. I mean, stuff was burned then. I mean, other countries. I mean, and then you come across sometimes, I'm not going to say titles, but sometimes we call up a producer like, hey, do you own this movie? Yeah. Oh, cool. Like, we'd love to sign it. You have the negative, and they're like, no, I threw it away. It was taking up too much room in my basement or garage. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, so I mean, there are some movies that are lost to time that will be, unless someone puts out like a VHS rip of it, that does it legally at least. I mean, there are things like that. I mean, Culture Shock Releasing has done that a couple times with, God Bless Goodnight and Zipper Face. I mean, those negatives are known to be lost. And, they get a 1-inch master or even sometimes a VHS rip. And at least it puts the movie back out there. It might not be the best quality, but, sometimes I'm for that. I'm for putting a film out there. I mean, we did that with Killing Spree on Terrorvision. I mean, that it's known as a shot on video movie, but it's not shot on video. It's actually shot on 16. And, the masters, the negatives, or Tim doesn't know where those are. He believes they've been destroyed and they've never shown up. So, and
there's always a chance a decade from now we find them somewhere.
Yeah. That's the other thing is that we still try to grab those rights if we can. And hopefully just sit on it and maybe a print will show up or the IN or IP or something, and that's happened, and you'll get in touch with another studio or, sometimes movies, sometimes, even overseas, a movie may have been shipped. The negative could have been shipped for, European distribution or something. They sent the negative somehow, or ended up at Studio Canal or something. And under a different title, and then you're searching for, like, I think that happened with Raiders of Atlantis. That Severin did, because I was talking to David, because that was a movie that I was after for a long, long time, and I just kept hitting dead ends, and I know where the rights were, but there was no material, and Severin found it I believe it's Studio Canal. Don't quote me on that. Anything I say is my own thoughts, by the way. This doesn't reflect Vinegar Syndrome. I'll throw that out there now. So yeah, I think they found it. It wasn't even under a title that made sense. It wasn't even on a title. It was released on video. It was just happened. I think they happened to know by the director or like some type of something. I forget what it was, but it was known as like the Atlantis Interceptors, and then Raiders of Atlantis. But yeah, they found it under a different title. I think don't know the title, but that happened, and it's very common. So you just have to be patient.
I think Jared from Mondo Macabro was saying he's hoping that happens with Alucarda because they reported in Mexico that the negative's just gone now. So he's hoping someday to be able to go down there and open some random box and just, oh look, here it is, the thing we've had rights to forever and that have not been able to put out on Blu-ray. So I mean, I'm stoked every time you hear like what just happened with Hitcher. Randomly, they were able to send Second Sight out there and they found the negatives back in the old Warner archives basically and found the Hitcher negative. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, it happened with us for Miami Connection. It was known that the negatives were in a hurricane, I believe Hurricane Andrew, here in Florida. But it was the original camera, but we found the IPs to the film and actually both cuts of the movie. So that was cool.
So it's even better than we had before, which is fantastic. Can't wait for that one. But speaking of VS,
did a print and so we're able to do 4K. It shows a lot more than what that print does. That's 100%.
Release was certainly not pristine. I mean, it was nice to have it, but I can't wait to see what you guys were able to do with it. Not to mention all the extras. There is so much coming over the next couple months that I'm just stoked about. And speaking of, I think it's probably time to talk about this month. Death Wish is the first big title that caught my eye coming in April. This got announced last Friday, the 1st of April, so it's coming out at the end of this month. We are getting 4K and Blu-ray as a set, and this is a new scanned, restored in 4K from the OCN. And it does have the alternate TV version restored in 2K as well, which freaking awesome that you guys were able to do both. It's so rare that you're able to get both restored like that. It's nice.
Yeah, and it's a pretty violent version too. It's not nice
for a TV version, yeah.
It says TV version, but that movie it's pretty heavy. So
I'm glad you're putting that one out. I mean, obviously that's a huge title. Has there been pretty good feedback on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's always kind of like when you release a sequel of something and not the first one. I think that's a little, people are a little bummed about that. But like I said, I mean, rights are different areas for different things and for different reasons, and this is just something we wanted to do. And it's a decent amount of extras too. We did a brand new interview with Robert Lyons, so that was pretty cool. He had a lot to say about the film, and some ported over extras, I think, and then some Robin Sherwood interview and writer, and I think the son of the producer, I think we had an interview with, so that was another one we had.
So son of the executive producer Bobby Roberts.
A lot of people are dead from this.
That makes sense.
A lot of people passed away. So, it was pretty light, considering.
Well, speaking of people that are probably on their way out soon, let's talk about Flesh Eater. I am so surprised that this is coming out on 4K. This is such an awesome title. This is from 1988, and everybody looks at this and realizes Bill Hinsman was the first zombie you see in Night of the Living Dead. That's kind of his claim to fame, even though he did all kinds of stuff with George A. Romero. They worked hand in hand a lot. Has a lot more story to him than just Night of the Living Dead. Anything that you want to share on this one?
No, I mean, I was very this is probably my the title that I was most excited about. Because I love Flesh Eater, I love Bill Hinsman, I love Pittsburgh and Romero and all that. So I was very excited to do the extras for this. There's a lot.
There is a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, we have Yeah, I mean, I'll try to remember off the top of my head because I can't read that.
Okay,
So yeah,
I can read it out to you. We got an interview with the
it's
producer.
fine. We'll test how well I know things and remember. So yeah, so we had an interview with Bonnie Heinzman. That's Bill's widow, his wife. Interview with Heidi Heinzman, is Bill's daughter, who went on to be a very successful filmmaker herself, working on countless shows. One of her new shows, that Pamela and Tommy Lee show or something. Yeah. She did an interview with us. Jerry Gergley, who did the special effects, and Andrew Sands, who was kind of a one-man band on that movie, who did numerous things. Erica Portnoy, who's Erica Manzies, who's Simon's wife. She did the soundtrack. Simon shot the film. Paul Georgi, who did a lot of accounting for George and for this film. Terry Godfrey, who who worked with George as well. All these people worked with George. Right. Who worked with George, worked with Bill Heinzman. I think she was a majorette. She has a little bit part. She's like the dispatcher in this one, but she has plenty of stories, because you work on an independent movie like this, even though if you have one little part, you do multiple things. But there's like 9 interviews. I'm probably missing a couple people here. And then I was very happy and thankful to moderate the commentary between Erica, Simon, and Andrew. So there's 4 of us on the commentary, just kind of celebrating, Bill and his work. Because you're right. I mean, yeah, I tweeted out the other day about, Bill Heinzman was so much more than just the first zombie and Night of the Living Dead. Because I think sometimes, it gets kind of, this movie gets criticized to the point where it's just he's playing off the success of the first zombie. And Bill was somebody that George met back in Night of the Living Dead, the Latent Image times, even before Night of the Living Dead, when they started Latent Image. He needed a DP, he needed a photographer, he needed someone that knows how to light a scene, because George really didn't. So Bill came in and lit scenes for Night of the Living Dead. He worked on the film, and he was the DP on numerous films. I believe he's the DP on the amusement park that was recently brought to light. He was the DP on the Crazies, which actually Heinzman shot and directed some of the Crazies, because that's when Romero's first daughter was actually, or his only daughter, was born. I think it was his daughter. Maybe it was his son. George has 3 kids, one of them. And George had to go for like 5 days. And the shoot wasn't very long either. And actually Bill shot and directed, some 5 days of the Crazies.
Wow.
So technically like a co-director. But yeah, I mean, he worked with Bill for, and George. They worked pretty closely together for numerous years, until Bill created his own company, drawn blank on it. But then he started making because I think they worked on some TV stuff that Latent Image did. They did like an O.J. Simpson documentary, actually. The Juice is Loose.
Nice.
And Bill shot that and everything. And it's probably like maybe I don't know, maybe the kind of maybe the early 80s, Bill created his own company, and then started doing his own thing. And he did the Majorettes and he did Flesh Eater. So it's a great
anybody interested in learning more about the Pittsburgh stuff, I would highly recommend After Effects, the documentary that I believe is exclusive to Diabolic DVD right now. And if you haven't seen it, Effects, it features Tom Savini acting, just a complete smorgasbord of everything that was happening in Pittsburgh and filmmaking around that time. Really great 1-2 punch to watch both of those back together.
Yeah, no, it's there's a lot of there's a lot of history there for sure, for all. Yeah, and again, a lot of these people that were interviewed were from that area. Or I mean, Bonnie was in there in the beginning. Bonnie just wasn't Bill's wife. She worked at Leighton Image with George. So there's a whole chunk of history, especially in the Flesh Eater interviews and stuff. I think it's a great package. 9 interviews, commentary, and extensive stills gallery, 4K UHD. I know it's a reissue from, not a reissue means we did it, but I know it's another Blu-ray that's been out, but this time it's obviously been significantly upgraded, and it looks great. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of this movie. I know some people don't like it, but I don't know. Flesh, and plus that cover, man, it's
great.
I love that cover. I love they went that way.
I can't wait to see it in the hand.
Is this a movie? Yeah, it's cheesy, but it's pretty gory at times.
It looks good. We got Alien Private Eye also coming. This is from 1989. This is I love the way this was written here. Part sci-fi, part neo-noir, part action movie, and a pure passion project for all involved. Alien Private Eye is a genre-bending powerhouse of gut-crushing fight scenes and neon-fueled hazy atmospherics. This is newly scanned in 4K from the OCN. New commentary track with Vic Rubenfeld, who's the writer, director, producer. Interview with Vic, and then an interview with the cinematographer, and an interview with the lead actor, David Nico Hill. Any thought? I probably should have shown that, but oh well.
This is one of my babies. I've loved Alien Private Eye for a long time. Even from the Radon Murky VHS that's been out, and this is actually pretty cool. I'll talk about this a tiny bit. That's what I'm on here, right? So Alien Private Eye is a really quirky and weird movie, and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's just really fun, but there's a few things about it. One, it's kind of like, I'm a huge fan of vanity projects, and this is kind of almost pure vanity, with instead of Vic not being in the movie. Vic wrote, produced, edited, directed this film, and he's not like the type of guy that you maybe think he is. He's not quirky, but he was viewing this in a different light. But yeah, it has I moderated the commentary of Vic. But what was cool about this is that I've loved this film for a long time. This is a film that has only been on VHS, in the UK, and on Radon VHS here. And it's like the worst possible quality of even a tape. It's like they threw the tape in the mud and then put it in the packaging. Like right. It's always been a bad transfer. So I was excited, to do the movie when we acquired it, and, I went through all this stuff with Vic, and, we got it out. We got the material. The material is scanned. I got a copy of the film so Vic and I could do the commentary, and, I downloaded it, and, I just spot checked it to make sure technical aspects it would play and nothing would go wrong during the commentary. So I didn't really get to watch, but I just like spot checked it, and I'm like, holy shit, man! Like this, this movie's quirky and weird, 100%. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's what a lot of people would quote unquote a bad movie, which I don't really. Right. Either you like it or you don't. I
agree.
And it was such a kind of a revelation how well the movie was lit and framed, because you really didn't pick that up on the tape. And I should have known, because Jörg Walter shot the film. He's Jörg is from Germany, and he's a well-educated DP. He got basically his film school from Uli Lamau. They shot numerous films together. So he was over here, in LA, and Vic actually fired the first DP over creative differences, because I guess the guy didn't know what the hell he was doing. He brought in Jörg, And that's why he was able to pull off the neo-noir stuff, because the noir aspect of the film is there. The sci-fi elements there, and yeah, it's like, 80s neon movie. And there's like it's use of lighting and blocking and just kind of composition in the way that the film's presented. It shouldn't look that good based off how quirky and weird the movie is. Like, he's an alien and he dances. He's a really good dancer. He beats people up. He has pointy ears. He has a laser gun on his hand. Like, this movie shouldn't look as good as it does. And it's kind of cool because, I didn't want to fan out of our work, but we're doing the commentary for the first time. And we haven't seen Vic hasn't seen the scan, and we're watching it. I'm just like, holy shit, look at this. Look how good this looks. Like, that's crazy. Like, not to shit on anybody, but why does this movie look as good as it does? Exactly. Yeah, the use of there's just so many like wonderful things about it. And it's a really pretty picture. And you may not like the movie because it's weird. Just be prepared. It's a weird movie, but it has so many cool things, and Vic's a likable guy. He did a good job on the commentary. I mean, this is his sole movie. Like, the only thing that he has done other than that, he's the creator of Early Edition, which is that popular 90s show where that dude would get like the next day's newspaper and be able to like save people.
Fight crime.
Vic's the creator of that. Yeah, and he did this. He did that after he did Alien Private Eye, and so, and then we have an interview with him. We have an interview with Jurg, which is great. I mean, Jurg's a genius, man. I could talk to that guy for hours. He's very well educated. He knows what he's doing. It's a miracle that Vic got him to do something so weird like this. But I think he got him from the conversation with Jurg. He was interested in the noir aspect and sci-fi, like. That's something I've never done before, and it hasn't really been done that much,
it's unique.
What is that?
It's unique. It's something that it's the big thing. It's a lot of these films that are like this, that are, not necessarily vanity projects, but flew under the radar. They mash up two completely different genres that people will fall in love with if they discover them later. And it's just the perfect way to stumble across something that you'd likely never see.
Yeah, no, it's and it's also got a killer soundtrack. Like the music in it is really good. And then we did an interview with Nico, who plays the lead Lemro. This is a big start for him too, because he was kind of like, in a bad place at the time. Like, the movie was being casted and stuff, and it kind of got him out of a bad place, like a kind of a rut. And this kind of kickstarted his career. And then he was in a bunch of action movies. But the dude could dance, he could act, and then he could do kung fu and karate. So, like, I asked Vic, I was like, were you looking for a guy that could act, dance, and, do karate? Like, that's insane. But they got him. I mean, he's a professional fighter, and he's a good dancer. I mean, Lemro dances a lot in the movie, so you'll see.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's a weird movie, but man, it's well made for what it is. It's well made.
Many times I've said about a Vinegar Syndrome release that it looks way better than it should, and that's never meant as a slight. But there are things like the big one last year that I really championed to a lot of people, and for some reason I feel like it flew under the radar, maybe because it had another release, but Terminal Island, like, it looked freaking amazing. That release surprised the hell out of me, how good the materials made that look.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important movie too. I mean,
it is.
Yeah, Stephanie is a hell of a filmmaker, and she kind of pioneered a lot and worked against the grain, being a woman making exploitation films in the 70s. So,
all right, moving on from Alien Private Eye. This one looks incredible. So Stiff Competition is coming out in 4K. Cool. I love that this was the hidden promo image on the website for a few days. And this is coming to the Kikorama line, and it looks genuine. I think I could show the back of this. This genuinely looks like a great package. The stills made this look fantastic. This is coming in, let's see, 4K UHD presented in HDR, new scan 4K from the OCN, feature-length audio interview with lead actress Gina Carrera by historian Casey Scott, new video interview with Kitten Natividad, and then alt language options and all that stuff. But man, this looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite hardcore movies. It's incredibly well shot and made for what it is. I mean, it's about blowjobs in the ring, man. Like it's a weird movie, but it's really well done, you know. Yeah, I was excited to do Kitten's interview because she's one of, like, a lot of people from the hardcore industry. It depends on who it is. Like, some people don't want to talk about it on anymore. They moved on, you know, rightfully so. I mean, a lot of these people had some bad experiences. You know, it was a completely different time that these movies were made, and kind of how people acted. So it was pretty rough, but Kitten lived. You know, she survived, and that's what she says. And she kind of embraces all of it. You know, she's not disappointed with what she did. She's brutally honest, but she's super funny when she does it. And her interview's pretty funny. And she's done a lot, man. She did she crossed over to mainstream movies. You know, she worked with Chuck Barris a lot. You know, she was on The Dating Game. She was on The Gong Show. So she's had quite a career. I mean, this was Russ Meyer's girlfriend for quite some time too, you know. So she's in a bunch of Russ Meyer movies in the beginning. You know, she talked about how she was only allowed to do girl on girl action for quite some time. But yeah, she's very open about it and just very bubbly. And yeah, I mean, that's the highlight of the disc, I think, is Kitten's interview, because it's so funny.
I bet.
But yeah, Stiff Competition is great.
This next one, you're not going to be able to say a whole lot about, but I think it's hilarious. Let's see. We have a translucent slipcover prototype. We'll let that one slip by for now. But they did have new merch available starting last Friday. They put out this cotton candy logo tee, and then the cranial vision with the cotton candy colors. Love that stuff. They put out a tote bag, and then from another one near and dear to your heart, TerraVision put out the Demon Wind vinyl. I am so stoked that you guys put this out. I have a little placard over there with one of the screen-used skin from Demon Wind that I will treasure until the day I'm gone.
No, Demon Wind always comes back. Always comes really back somehow, and Ryan was TerraVision was able to do that, and you know, it was pretty cool to see. You know, Demon went on vinyl finally, so
can't wait to have that one. Speaking of partner labels and all of that extra stuff, the next one is the start of the partner labels. And first one we got is Beauty Day, coming from Circle Collective. This is from 2011, and it says, before there was Tom Green, before there was Jackass, there was Raph, I believe it's pronounced Zavadil. His Canadian cable access show, The Captain Video Show, is from 1990 to 1995. This is coming with deleted scenes, the 20th anniversary special, a commentary with the director, and the original clips. And I can't wait to see this. I love this type of stuff.
I haven't seen it yet, so that's one of the movies that I haven't seen.
Circle Collective is doing really well so far.
You'd be surprised. There's some things I haven't seen. This is if you want partner label stuff, I definitely suggest having Justin on at some point, because you know, he's the one that kind of facilitates all this. And I mean, Justin's wonderful. He's a great friend, a great coworker, and most of all, he does a fucking kick-ass job of facilitating this shit, man. He's so good.
I can't wait. Listening to his interviews everywhere else, I mean, all of you guys, you just know so much, and the way that you talk about it, you can tell that is coming through everything that you're putting out. I mean, especially with you doing acquisitions and the special features on Vinegar Syndrome, and then suddenly you're a big part of TerraVision, and everything from TerraVision has been fucking great so far.
Yeah, and we hope to keep going. I mean, it's a weird label, but that's the whole point. It's going to be weird, and it's going to get weirder. So I just hope people kind of join us for the ride. So
that's good. Well, we got one more coming this month, so we'll talk about that one in just a minute. Fun City Editions.
Yeah.
They are putting out a new one this month as well from 1971, Born to Win. And this is, let's see,
movie,
over 50 years after its initial release, it stands as one of the quintessential and most influential cinematic portrayals of New York City of the early 70s and some of its less fortunate inhabitants. This has a booklet in it, and Justin LaLiberty wrote on that. Newly recorded commentary by Jason Bailey and Michael Hull of the Fun City Cinema podcast. And this one genuinely looks great. Everybody that I've heard talked about it says Born to Win is amazing. Somehow it's passed by me.
Incredible. It's so fucking good. It's because it's been unavailable for so long, but it's
right.
It's an incredible movie.
Yeah, this is supposed to be great. And Fun City Editions is, I mean, everything they put out so far is just felt important watching it. It's felt like it's a piece of history.
Yeah, it was cool because when I first met Jonathan, well, via phone, I've never met him in real life, but we talked about. I was kind of asking, it was like, because I kind of knew, like, with the first couple titles, I was like, are you kind of doing this with the label? Like, I kind of caught on pretty early. He's like, yeah. And I was like, oh shit, man, that's going to be fucking great. And yeah, he's just killing it, man. He does such a good job at curating and picking these like little films like this, and, you know, knowing what's coming. He's going to fucking slaughter the rest of this year. He's got a hell of a lineup, man.
That's exciting. Fun City's done a lot of great stuff.
My mom and my grandmother, seeing the films that he's putting out and he's going to put out reminds me of my mother, or mainly my grandmother, picking up movies when we go to the video store and then watching them with her. These are the movies she picked, you know, and it was just, it's a really, really good lineup. And it's just some really wonderful films that are kind of forgotten about, you know?
Right. And literally everything they put out, they've killed it on the quality of everything. I mean, Smile was great. The box set that came out last year was just so perfectly put together. That's one I still am ringing the bell that everybody needs to pick up at some point, because those movies, they just fit together. And Fun City, it's I talk about Mondo Macabro a lot, but Fun City is one of those ones where you can tell just by watching the movie that this feels like a Fun City film. It's natural that it came out through them.
Yeah.
Next one. This is a quite a different theme from what we just talked about. Burglar from Hell is coming from Saturn's Core Audio and Video. This is from the Shot on Video line. That's mostly what they've done so far. This is a seminal SOV standout from the early 90s mail order horror boom. Burglar from Hell built a dedicated following in the underground with its riotous mix of practical splatter effects, lowbrow toilet humor, gratuitous nudity, and unexpected attempts at social commentary, which means it sounds like it's speaking straight to my soul. This is the front of the slip, and there is the back. This is a new transfer from the recently unearthed SVHS master tape. Audio commentary with the writer-director Phil Herman, interview with Phil Herman as well, interview with actress Debbie D, interview with Barry Gaines, and then Frank the Tank Speaks, interview with actor Bryant Soule. But this also has a bonus movie, The Wrong Side of Town from '89, Phil Herman's previously unreleased SOV action feature debut, new scanned as well, and it's got an early short film too. Tons of stuff on this disc, and Saturn's Core has done that for pretty much everything. I love how loaded their releases are.
Yeah, Burglar from Hell. So I host a quarterly marathon. I've done it for over 11 years. I program like 7 to 9 films for the whole day. You know, we fix a bunch of meals. We have a bunch of people over. You know, it started off like like 4 people in the very beginning, and now it's like up to 15, 20, whatever. I played Burglar from Hell a couple years ago, and I thought I was gonna have a riot on my hands. That is probably the best endorsement I could give the movie. Burglar from Hell, I adore this movie, but I'm also a shot on video freak. I mean, I love this type of stuff, and this is one of the most inept fucking movies you'll see as far as trying to make a movie. But it is so good because the accents are. My buddies and I, not them. I usually do it because every time. The whole idea about the marathon is that sometimes people just forget what we play. You know, it's been over 10 years and, you know, over 100 movies have played. But there's 2 movies that never have died in the conversation of almost every time. Like, oh, that wasn't as bad as this. Boarding House and Burglar from Hell. Those 2 films have kind of lived on continuously all these years
in infamy.
Yeah, I even say, hey, where's the hot water from this movie, because I think it's one of the most ridiculous scenes and accents and actors in this movie. But yeah, Burglar from Hell is just, it is beautiful. It is saying, yeah, the social commentary aspect that they keep trying with the white and black guys. Oh my God, it's so dated and just so cringy at times, but it's funny. It works out to be funny. You know, it's not disrespectful or anything like that. It's just they're really trying for something. It's like you're watching this like slasher film with like Frank the Tank killing people, and then it's like, hey man, let's talk about what it's like to be black. And it's like, what? Like, where's this coming from? And they just have this breakdown in this fucking car talking about racism. And, you know, I respect what they're trying to do. It just doesn't work for this movie, but it's just all over the place. But it's so much fun. If you like really shitty shot on video movies, this is 100% up your alley. It's fucking perfect. It's definitely probably top 10 SOV for me. 100%.
Wow,
no lie.
That's a pretty ringing endorsement.
I'll be honest. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of SOV films, and yeah, I mean, Boarding House and Burglar from Hell are 2 of them. Blonde Death is one of them. Sledgehammer, Dream Stalker, Death by Love. All those are some of my favorites. Burglar from Hell is definitely one of them.
Some big ones in there, and that's the marathon was literally like just this last week, wasn't it? I love following along with it on Twitter.
Yeah, last Saturday. Next one is July 9th, and yeah, I'm a nut about it, man. I start like thinking about it and programming it, and yeah, it's really well thought out and it has all these like weird tie-ins. You know, and I kind of wait. I don't even tell how the movies are connected sometimes. I just wait for someone to say something, and it was so weird that I forget who it was. I think it was, you know, my buddy Chris Dudley. He's the keyboardist in Under Oath. Who just had a new album that's pretty good. Just this like couple months ago. But anyways, Chris Dudley comes to the marathon, and he was like, "There's a theme of overreactive fathers in your movies," and I'm like, hey, there you go. That's actually one of the clues, like, you know, or not clues. That's just one of the like hidden themes, is that there's overreactive fathers in all these movies. Not all of them, but there's a good majority that had overreactive fathers. But yeah, it was you know, pretty funny, because sometimes people catch us. Sometimes it's pretty obvious, like, man, everybody's kind of puking in all these movies. And like, that's actually one of the hidden themes, is that there's just a lot of puking, you know. But yeah, it was pretty funny.
This is not in any way an attempt to impress or anything like that, but hilarious tie-in, because one of the things that I bring up on the channel a lot is my upbringing. I started in the music industry before I got into movies like this so much, and I was raised super religious, so grew up with Under Oath. and I brought them up on stream literally probably 50 times. And I think only 2 or 3 times people have been like, "Oh, I even know who you're talking about." I adore those guys. I've been around them for literally. I mean, it's God. They started what 24 years ago now at this point. 20, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. No, I
25
know they
years ago
started
almost.
off at kind of like the Christian, and they kind of departed from that years ago. But yeah, Chris is a good buddy of mine. He doesn't live too far from me, so yeah, he comes these things, and I think he has a good time.
Next up is from Altered Innocence. We have The Islands of Jan Gonzalez and You and the Night. This is the front of the slip. This is the back. And Altered Innocence is another one of those that just does really, I mean, some of the films are genuinely heavy films, but really high quality work in pretty much everything. The art on this really captured me this time around. Is there anything that you can share on how you guys do cover art? Like, do you have a obviously you've got a handful of artists you go back to, but oh yeah,
I mean, Justin again is the mastermind behind that. I mean, he has a handful of artists in his back pocket, and he works with them. I'm sure there's a lot of creativity that's led up to the artist, but yeah, Justin. I mean, I don't have anything to say about the cover art. I just like how it's unzipped pants.
Yep. That's the first thing that got my eye, genuinely. So this one is
Last American Version, old cover.
Yeah, exactly. So this says horny monsters, erotic dancers, lonely youths, mourning lovers, and people who just want to party. Jan Gonzalez's cinema is full of unique islands with exciting characters, gorgeous cinematography, and hypnotic sonic arenas. Before Knife and Heart, these short films would go on to win Jan a devoted cult following and awards at festivals like the Queer Palm-winning Islands. Again, tons of stuff on here. We've got 4 music videos, 4 other works, a compilation trailer. Obviously, it's a double feature. Plus, there's a good booklet in here, and there are bonus features on the second title as well. You and the Night. This gets an interview with the director, scene commentaries, all kinds of stuff on here. Let's go to the next one, and this one, Yellow Veil. Are you close to them at all?
Yeah, I mean, I know the guys from Yellow Veil. I know Joe pretty well. But yeah, it's I mean, they do their own thing. I know who the guys are. Right. I kind of mainly knew them a lot when they were just kind of they were sales reps when they kind of first started, and they kind of developed the company being that they were film lovers and filmmakers, because a lot of sales reps in other areas, I'm not going to get into it. Just sometimes they don't do what's best in the filmmakers' wants and needs, as far as getting the movie out there. And they kind of focused on that. And I'm glad they kind of went this route of, also distributing. So
they have done a lot to be really creeping high up on my list of favorite partner labels recently. And everything I've heard on this one, I'm waiting for this disc to see this, but everything I've heard about this one is that it is amazing. If you have any sway, I desperately want their logo on a t-shirt. That logo is fantastic.
Yeah. No, I mean, they I'll relay that to Justin. They're always doing swag and stuff, so that could be thing. But they look like people, man. That made my top 10 in 2000 or top 20 in 2017 or so, whenever it came out. I can't remember. But it was just I think it's fucking scary shit, man. It's like a super lo-fi, end of the world type thing, man. I think it's scary. I like it. I mean, you're not going to be shaking. It's right. Not like that, but it's a very unsettling and disturbing. It's like one of those things where what's going. I always find the movies interesting when someone knows something. Let's just say that someone came to you and they gave you proof. Let's do it this way so everybody knows this movie. Let's say you're Sarah Connor, right? And you know what's going to fucking happen, but you can't do anything about it. That's kind of how they look like people is that they know what's going on, but they can't do shit. And it's a really great movie.
Looks really good. Again, another loaded release, and they have been every single release that Yellow Veil's put out has looked fantastic, had just really great features done on it, and again, the art on this just top notch. I can't wait to have this one, and highly recommend everything Yellow Veil's been putting out recently. But this one, I think you're going to have a lot to talk about. Love and Saucers, coming from Terror Vision. This is from 2017. And why don't you go ahead and dive into this?
Yeah, so this is our fourth title from Terror Vision. This is a documentary about artist David Huggins, who claims that he's fell in love and fucked an alien. And you can believe him, or you call his bluff. I don't believe it. But what's interesting about the doc is that it approaches it in a way of not making fun. Not being biased, not being on his side, not being against him. It's a really fine line that the film kind of teeters on, to not make fun of anybody, but also not say, yeah, this guy has a point. Like, there's a very good chance he could have fucked it. No, it's not like that. It's just kind of telling you a story about David Huggins and his art, and kind of where the kind of the art comes from. And it's a wild doc, and it's got a lot of extras with kind of the Zoom calls with all the cast and crew. So it's a weird thing. And also, if you are in kind of the Savannah area, where Terror Vision is home base, Ryan has he has Greyface Records, which is a record store that's awesome, but he also has a museum. It has the largest Gacy collection of John Wayne Gacy, but he also, I believe, he's getting in or has some Huggins art.
Wow.
So he has various things in there. He has the real flavor packets, the Flavor Aid from the Jonestown Massacre. He has like Jim Jones glasses, and it's all legit stuff. It's not like replication.
Right.
So yeah, he's got a lot of shit, and I think he's going to be getting some of Huggins art and putting in, because he has kind of a sci-fi alien aspect to it too, and he switches everything up. He changes the consistently in the museum. He has new things come out. He puts new things in.
Wow.
Then he has kind of stuff dedicated to the VHS kind of realm, and then he has a bunch of pinball machines that were all horror based and
Nice.
stuff like that, and movie based. So yeah, he runs that museum, and it's a pretty cool place. But yeah, if you're in Savannah, go check it out. Yeah, that's home base for Terror Vision.
That's awesome. And again, I will throw out Terror Vision, just absolutely doing great stuff so far. They put out the WNUF Halloween special, which obviously was a big title for a lot of people. Then after that was Norway, and then Killing Spree, and now we got Love and Saucers, and we've already got hints on, I think, 2 more, or at least 1 more that's coming. And it seemingly so far, again, just hit after hit.
We announced some stuff. Yeah, we announced some stuff when we launched WNUF. I mean, everybody knows video violence is coming, so I'll be down the line.
And I believe earlier I saw at least 1 question on that one, so can't wait till we get that one in the hand. Next up, this one. Go ahead.
Package, yeah. No, I was just saying it's a pretty good package of what we tried to put together for it.
Terror Vision is turning into one of those ones too that just has a feel. Like, you can tell this is a Terror Vision movie, and I love that. I love how curated it is. I love that you can feel that you guys are into it.
It's basically I appreciate that, but I also don't like that statement because I want it to be very unpredictable.
Well, and that is one of the reasons why it feels like that, because it's so
Yeah, I mean,
off the
maybe
wall.
that's it. But yeah, it's stuff that Ryan and I really like, and we find interesting that maybe people don't want to take a chance on, or they do, like
Right.
WNUF. But the big chance one is Norway, which is a super super fucking weird movie.
And I really wish more people saw Norway. I've heard a couple people that obviously it's not going to be for everybody, but Norway it is very unique.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weird movie, and it's a movie that stayed dormant for quite some time. It never had a release anywhere other than I think its home country, Greece, on DVD. But yeah, it's I believe the world premiere of the Blu-ray. Don't quote me on that, but if it did, it didn't do very well. But yeah, it's a weird movie. It's a bizarre movie. But it's something that I've loved for, man. I've been trying to get distribution for that movie for a long time, even way before I started working for Vinegar Syndrome. So, being it's so odd and weird and a hard sell, I was dumb enough to do it. So,
and it's not like a brand new film. That came out 2014, right? Originally.
Yeah, it's close to 7 years old. So.
Not too bad. Next up is Canadian International Pictures is putting out The Mob from 1975. Again, love the art style on the slip. Looks great. Looks very similar. This is a artist that VS has used a few times on some of their titles and some of the partner labels as well. This one has scanned and restored in 2K from the 35 inner positive, a collection of Quebec crime film trailers, which is 40 minutes long, which is awesome. I love me some trailer compilations. They've got a couple bonus shorts here, and then a booklet, which I don't know if it's a common thing that OCN is doing for everything, but it seems like suddenly we're getting booklets for a lot of stuff. And I got to admit, I love the context that we're getting in those.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. Yeah, we're trying to beef up on the booklets in general, if it's warranted and we're able to do one. Again, that's a lot of Justin, facilitating that, and because Justin, like me, he's a big physical media fan, buys a bunch of shit, and like I said, it's that we're not, Vinegar Syndrome is a business at the end of the day, but it's run by a bunch of people that do love this stuff in general. The stuff that we love, we want to see. We try to put as much as we can if it's warranted, and depending on the title, the movie, whatever. And the time that we have, because it takes a lot of time to put some of this stuff together. So, Justin does a pretty good job of all
that. Next up is coming from Dark Star Picks, Mother Schmuckers. And again, absolutely iconic art on this. Love this. This is originally from 2021, so it's a very new film. This is from, I believe, France. This says, I can't pronounce the name because I'm very, very white and not the French white. Isaacar and Zabulon, two brothers in their 20s, are supremely stupid and never bored, as madness is part of their daily lives. When they lose their mother's beloved dog, they have 24 hours to find him or she will kick them out. And this has a feature with subs. It's got a short film on there. It's got all kinds of extra stuff and some mini shorts. A sticker sheet insert. This has all kinds of stuff in this, and Dark Star again seems to be going all out for their releases. Love it.
Yeah, this movie is very divided. Some people really like this movie, and some people really hate this movie. So I like those types of movies that divide an audience. I actually am not the biggest fan of this, but I can totally see the like and want for this. Right. But I'm also a guy that loves Greasy Strangler, which a lot of people dislike. So what the fuck do I know?
That's true. This feels to me like that release Assholes that just came out a couple months ago. A lot of people hated that film, and a very similar vibe.
Yeah.
Next up, though, is from Factory 25, maybe the one I am looking forward to the most out of all of these partner label releases this month. This is a documentary on Other Music, which is or was a New York City record store that was vital to the city's early 2000s indie music scene, which shaped a lot of what people in the music industry felt for years. And some of the names attached to this that they have, I mean, Regina Spektor, Jason Schwartzman, Matt Berenger from The National. We've got Brian Chase from the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Benicio del Toro, Janine Garofalo, all kinds of names. They've got extras reel with deleted features, commentary by a whole bunch of names, 38-page booklet. And yeah, this is one that I cannot wait to see.
Yeah, I haven't seen this either, so yeah, it's I'm excited to see, because just like you, I get the partner labels and I watch the movies. So, because I don't have time to watch everything, and sometimes, sometimes I just like to watch the disc as well, instead of getting like a screener from Justin or whatever. And I'm just like, I'll just wait for the Blu-ray. I'll watch it when it gets in, because I like doing that shit. I'll talk about it at a later time. I wish I could promote everything and know everything, and
exactly.
But I just don't have time. And I also like watching stuff at home. That we put out. Yeah. I think that's fun. I rarely watch any Vinegar Syndrome discs. Because I've seen the movie probably like 20 times itself, and I maybe did a commentary for it, and it's like I'll watch it one day. But it's sometimes I don't get to watch our discs. So
you've already watched it to death. That makes sense. Next up from Decanalog, we got Take Me Somewhere Nice. Here's the front of the slip, and the back is rather plain on this one. This one is from 2019, and this says, recipient of the special jury prize at the Rotterdam Film Festival, Take Me Somewhere Nice is the unpredictable neon-tinted feature debut for a Bosnian-born refugee raised in Holland, who is now one of Dutch cinema's fastest rising talents. Her film's breezy wit and pastel color palette disguise dark truths about national identity, gender, and coming of age, making it the first essential road movie about the TikTok generation. This one has interviews with the filmmaker and actress, a few short films, and then again, a booklet. And Decanalog's done really good work with some of their stuff too so far.
Yeah, I know the guys at Decanalog, and one of them is one of the guys that helps work in the film. He actually edits a lot of our extras for Vinegar Syndrome. Elijah Drenner, and a good buddy of mine. I love him to death. And yeah, this is definitely more of an art house label, and I like what they're doing so far. It's kind of all over the place as far as the films, but all the films have been pretty legit. They're they did Detention, which is I think is fucking great.
It is.
So yeah, they're doing a good work. This is another film I haven't seen. I'll be excited to watch it when it comes in.
Can't wait. And then
or I could be a really good salesman and just talk good about every movie.
we appreciate the honesty and the transparency.
This is a great movie. Buy it. No, I'll be honest with you, man.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to sound like that about Culture Shock, because I adore everything that they frickin' do. I've been following Culture Shock long since before they were a partner label. Talked to those guys quite a few times.
Yeah.
And Video Murders. First of all, this is another one of those that I can't believe is getting a release like this. This is from
I'm a fan.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, you'll get to it of that I've actually seen this movie.
Yep. David Lee Shepard loves his mother. He's a good boy who wants to make his mother proud, but he also wants to videotape himself strangling prostitutes. From one beautiful corpse to the next, Lieutenant Jerry Del Vecchio is getting closer to David. A reckless news reporter and a fatally friendly young woman get caught up in the mayhem. And what do you know? It has a full-length commentary with the first assistant cameraman, David Aiken, moderated by somebody named Brad Henderson. Interview with the band, The Insatiables. Interview with the actor, John Vertita, Interview with first assistant cameraman, David Aiken. The Insatiables music video, and the original VHS audition footage, which, holy shit, that's amazing.
Yeah. No, I was happy to do that, because when when I found out that they were, because I helped them do some of the interviews on Girlfriend from Hell,
Great
because I
release,
was
by the way.
talking to Daniel, and I knew that they didn't have as much as I was like, oh man, I know all the people from Girlfriend from Hell, so I did the interview with the guy that did the play, and obviously with Leanne, I did the interview with her. So when I found out about this, I was like, holy shit, I love the regional side of filmmaking that McCullough did in Louisiana. And of course he was good friends with Charles B. Pierce, and so I helped get a couple people in touch with Video Murders with Daniel and Warren over at Culture Shock, and I was like, I'd love to do a commentary going over the historical side of kind of the Louisiana film side of filmmaking, and David Aiken's a great person, because he started working with McCullough when he was like in his 20s, and that's how he started and continued making movies all through those years. So yeah, we just have kind of a honest chat about the shit that went on during this movie, and him fucking around and getting in trouble, and kind of just learning how to make a movie and his learning experience from the McCulloughs. And just kind of how much work that they put in for regional filmmaking in Louisiana, gave a lot of people jobs. I mean, these guys were legit filmmakers, man. I mean, father and son just kicking ass. Unfortunately, Jim McCullough Jr. is really old now. I mean, he's, I think, probably in his 80s or 90s. Right. Seniors passed away. They have a son, Max, now, but he's not. I don't think he's ever done anything in filmmaking. But yeah, Louisiana is kind of really cherished around that area, the Shreveport area, from the McCulloughs' kind of legendary status around there, making all those movies in house. So,
Video Murders looks great. This is one, I believe I've seen this one like forever ago. This is one that I recognize a lot of the key art used on this. And again, Culture Shock releasing every single title has been, it's one of those, it's gotten treatment that you really never expected a movie like this to get. And Girlfriend from Hell is the perfect example. It's such a fun movie.
Yeah, Girlfriend from Hell is a fun example, but some of their other titles and their upcoming titles, you kind of want to take a bath afterwards. And that's what I like about them.
That makes it great. I believe the last partner label for the month is sort of a re-release. We got Wicked World coming. This is of course, the Barry Gillis film coming from AGFA. This had a release previously on Blue, and now since everybody is into the super slipcover rage, we are getting one of those, and it is one that we've talked about previously. So, do you have any stories about Wicked World or anything you want to say about it?
No, I mean, Wicked World's a weird movie. And Barry Gillis is a very eccentric guy.
He's a weird dude.
And it shows in the movies. So, I mean, you get what you get when Gillis directs a movie, and that's what you can expect. And expect the unexpected and expect weirdness. I mean, I like the movie. I think his other films are better, but I mean, I still think it's a good film.
Yep, glad since this one was getting hard to get, this is one of those ones that went up super high in price on eBay. So I'm glad other people are finally getting
I think Active is doing some re-releases. I think they announced that. I don't know what's in store, but I know that they're doing some back catalog stuff.
Yep. So now I believe we're finally out of the Vinegar Syndrome and partner label stuff, and now into getting a take from Brad on maybe some stuff that he doesn't usually work with. First one is Wild Eye has announced that they have a new sub-label called Visual Vengeance, and one of the first titles coming is Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell. I have I believe it was Terracotta in the UK put this out on DVD. I have that one.
Yeah,
this has been called the Japanese Evil Dead, and obviously this one. Anything you want to say about it?
No, I mean, I worked at Wild Eye. I worked with Rob for a couple years, and I was actually there when he acquired this, and
Wow.
him trying to figure out what to do with it and how to get a higher, quality picture for it. And, it was a film that was made years ago, and then eventually finished up until, probably about 10 years ago. They completed it. It just kind of
Right.
sat around. Yeah, no, it's a really fun movie, man. It's pretty crazy, and I'm excited to see Rob actually get this, this sub label out and do what he does best: release weird ass fucking movies.
And it seems like they're
But
going
yeah,
the real
I still
boutique
love it.
releases with these.
Yeah, yeah, and I still love Rob. I left on good terms. But yeah, no, I've been waiting for this to come out for quite some time because I've known about it for like 4 or 5 years. So yeah, I'm excited to see. And there's actually a few films that I know about that he has that he's just kind of sitting on. So I'm excited to see the rest of them. Even some that I helped acquire aren't even out yet. So
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure we'll get into that after some of these announcements, but that's the crazy thing about rights and licenses and acquisitions and all that. That some of these you can literally sign a film and still not see a physical release for ages, for a very long time. Mondo Macabro, I think they were talking about. They're putting out Dr. Caligari this fall in 4K, and just the restoration alone on that was taking, I think he said, like 2 or 3 years. And that's let alone finding the elements, getting everything shipped properly, getting the negotiations done. The processes for this is far from overnight.
oh yeah, I mean we have films. I mean, even sometimes you're after trying to do a deal with somebody, for sometimes I mean I've worked with people for over 2 years, them to sign a movie to a label, even with Vinegar Syndrome. And then by the time you get that and you ship materials and then you work on a restoration, and then something happens, you got to push off the release for it because you may not have everything you need. I mean, sometimes, yeah, man, it's like could be 4 or 5 years. It's crazy. Like, but that's just how it is, and that's why we work so far in advance. I mean, we acquire titles to last us for a few years. So like,
Right.
yeah, I mean, there's so much going.
Yeah, it's a constant machine. You got to keep feeding. Completely get that. Speaking of this wild eye visual violence, Necrophiles is the second title.
Yeah, this movie's fucking crazy. I wouldn't say it's good, but it's weird.
They are giving this the same treatment as Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder. That's a fun one to say. This is getting, again, a big boutique-style release. It is such a long title for that film. I always just called it The Japanese Evil Dead because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people do, so they don't have to say it because I always fuck up anyway. So, but yeah, this movie is pretty weird. It's fun. It just depends on what you like. I mean, this is definitely going to be a fan favorite if you're a fan of these kind of insane gory films and a lot of stuff that like SRS does, that Ron Bonk does over at SRS. You'll probably end up liking this.
And Wild Eye is actually releasing a friend of mine's movie, I believe, next month. So keep an eye out for that from Lucky Cerruti. And Diabolic, by the way, is selling a bundle with both of those films and I still can't believe they're doing this. They're also selling a Ghost Stress dumbbell. Perfect.
That's pretty fucking funny.
Some really cool ones that also got announced this week, coming from Oscilloscope out of New York, and I've talked about them on here many times. I'll ring their bell, every week until I'm blue in the face that they are one of the most underappreciated labels out there. They are putting out Short Bus, and this is the front of their release. We'll get to that in a second. I think that's hilarious too, by the way. This is from 2006, and it's John Cameron Mitchell's Short Bus explores the lives of several emotionally challenged characters as they navigate the comic and tragic intersections between love and sex in and around a modern-day underground salon. And because it's surrounding sex, they are also selling Short Bus lube.
Wow, that's pretty funny. I didn't actually know that, but Yeah.
Oscilloscope does really good work, and one of the best things about them is kind of similar to Vinegar Syndrome subscription. You can be a part of what they call their Circle of Trust, and it's $100, and it'll get you their next 10 Blu-ray releases sent to your house, and you never pay for shipping on that at all. So it is 10 really
Yeah,
great
no, I
releases.
agree with you. They're pretty. They've been around for a while, and they're pretty underappreciated. And some of the films that they've released have been some of my favorites. You know, that they did. Shit. What's the name of that fucking movie where the dude builds a car and a flamethrower?
Oh God. Where is my oscilloscope section?
Is it like Butterfly? What is it called? Shit.
That sounds something like that.
Let's
see if I can find it.
Yeah, I can't. I'm drawing a blank. But yeah, it's a bunch of indie filmmakers, and they built that. They built like a working flamethrower for the film, and they had that like souped up car. But yeah, they did that, and they had a movie. Obviously, I think they did Exit Through the Gift Shop, the Banksy doc. And then they did one of my favorites made my like top 20 in I think 2019 was VHS, which was Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon's kid. That movie's incredibly well done. It's really, really good. But yeah, no, it's
Bellflower is the name of that film.
I love that. Bellflower, that's right. Okay, but yeah, that movie's fucking Bellflower is insane. I love that. I don't know what happened to those guys. So I wish they would continue making movies, but yeah, I don't think they came out with anything.
I don't think so. They're also releasing So Late, So Soon from 2020. And this is another one of their sort of quiet releases that they put out. Half a century into their marriage, Chicago artists Jackie and Don Seiden approach the fragility of their elderly lives in their own distinct ways. And this has a trailer on it. Again, this is one of those things that if you're a part of the Circle of Trust, you just get their next 10 releases, and it's a great deal.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna do that after this show. I appreciate you saying that because I didn't know that. Didn't they do Coherence?
They did.
Was that them? Yeah, dude. Coherence is like the best dinner party movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yep. Coherence is great.
Yeah, fucking Coherence. That's one of the most like. I was so nervous in the movie. Yeah, Coherence is fucking great. But yeah, they do great work, man. I mean, anything that you get by them, there's a lot of care and thought that goes into like, and that's the thing is like, we have a lot of these like big companies, not any boutique labels, because boutique labels are pretty well curated because we're so small as far as staff is concerned. But like even some of like the bigger stuff like IFC and like Gratis Ventures and all these people. I mean, they just buy movies, man. They just pick them up and they dump them. With some of these other labels, like it's really well thought out. And even if it might not be your bag, like it's still, I still like, it's kind of like I always compare it to if we're hanging out or we're at a job, we're all working together. Even everybody in this, like, that's watching this show, if we're all like working at like a fucking pizzeria or something, and you want to play music, don't play the fucking radio. Play a playlist that you have fixed. I don't give a shit what it is. I want to hear music that you picked. It may be music that I don't like, but I want to hear something that's curated by you. I fucking hate the radio. And that's kind of why I like a lot of these labels, is that it might not be my movie. I might not love it, but at least I know it's picked in a sense of there's a lot of thought process behind it and someone really loves it, and that's why I like a lot of these super small boutique labels. So.
Yeah, I fully agree. And Oscilloscope is one of the perfect examples of that, because they really, I believe they're based out of New York City, if I remember right. And they have that very New York vibe. They put out a lot of stuff that feels like it would only come out of New York. It's something that, a lot of them, they'll play the circuit and that's all that they'll get. And a lot of these would get forgotten without a label paying attention to them.
Yeah, no, I
Next
completely
up,
agree. And I mean, they're releasing stuff that's not that old either. So that's pretty
right,
cool.
a lot of newer stuff too. Kino Lorber announced their ninth film noir, The Dark Side of Cinema box set. This one has Lady on a Train, Tangier, and Take One False Step. Are you a film noir person at heart at all?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. I mean, there's like the thing is when these movies were made, like everybody was jumping on this train. And it's very much like the horror industry is that you had everybody making horror films, you had everybody making noir films. So I think we have a tendency to think noir 50s, oh, classics. And it's just some of these are fucking dirtbag movies.
Right.
This one, Lady on a Train, is pretty good. Take One, False Step. I don't think I've seen that. In Tangier, I don't think I've seen that either. So I've seen one in this, and that's pretty good. I mean, their film noir sets are pretty decent from what I've picked up. I have a few of them myself, but I mainly pick them up because of the movies that I know in them. Because I mean, I like Kino Lorber, but there's just so much stuff that they put out, and sometimes some of it's like Ladies Should Listen or some shit like that they put out. It's just not a good movie at all.
Yeah, we
I
talked
mean,
about this a lot. They put out so many releases that there's bound to be some gems, but a lot of the time it's just, they license some of these films in a pack of 8, and they really only bought that whole pack of 8 to get like 3 of the titles, and the other 5 now they may as well put them out.
Yeah. I mean, I like that they're doing it, and giving these films again. The whole purpose of the company is to get these movies out, give them another life, because there's very few times these even movies had past the VHS release. So I love what they're doing. It's just, just be wary of what you're, just because it's on Blu-ray doesn't mean it's good, type thing. And that goes for any company,
Oh yeah.
any boutique label, 100%. But this is definitely worth it for Lady on a Train. And plus their releases are fairly cheap, and they always have those sales that are really good. So, definitely worth it.
Next up, I believe from Kino, they announced they are putting. I forgot about this. They're putting out the Mr. Wong Detective 5-film collection starring Boris Karloff, spanning from 1938 to 1940.
Yeah, I didn't know about this. There's a couple good films in there if you're a fan of those kind of lowbrow, especially these kind of, I wouldn't call them procedurals, but they're pretty low grade kind of either detective stories or they're fun. I mean, this would be definitely a set I'd be interested in because I've seen The Detective. I've seen Mr. Wong in Chinatown. Maybe that's it. Maybe I haven't seen a lot of these. I think I've only seen 2. But still, I mean, that would be something I'll probably end up picking up. Is that Kino, you said?
It is Kino. No date on it yet, and this is not the final art or anything like that. I'm willing to bet this gets one of their box sets because those have been selling really well for them.
Yeah. No, that's definitely something to be. I mean, anything with Karloff, you're going to be slightly entertained.
Ain't that the truth? Especially when it's got Mr. Wong posted on the outside. So let's get into some funner ones, possibly. Scream Factory had their announcements this week, and one that really came out of nowhere for me, at least. They are putting out on 4K Cat People from 1982. This is the remake, and as usual, Scream Factory, they announced their stuff, and they're still working on extras and all that. So we don't know all the details that are coming. We don't know what type of restoration was done on this, but they are putting out in 4K. Are you a fan of Cat People?
Not really. I know I'm in the minority on that. I'm just not a fan of Cat People.
This one never stuck
I'll
to me
pick this
either.
up for sure.
I don't know why I didn't love it either, but
yeah, I have it on Blu-ray, and I'll upgrade it. And I'll give it another chance. I've seen it probably about maybe 3 times. I don't know. It just doesn't really hit me the way it hits other people. But I mean, that's the beauty of movies.
Exactly. And this is going to be one of their collector's editions and all that. You can pre-order this with a poster. And they are also doing a re-release of Toby Hooper's The Funhouse in 4K. And this is one, we talked about the re-releases and people complaining. I saw people complain about this one, and this was Scream Factory's literal, I think it was their third release in 2012 or 2013, something like that. And people are complaining.
Yeah, I mean, the Scream Factory's been around for a while, so doing. I mean, plus, I mean, it's been so long, and honestly, a lot of their early Blu-rays, like they've always done decent work, but they didn't when they very first launched. They weren't putting a ton of work into their restorations, right. So it's kind of it's kind of cool to see them actually go through with this and do these upgrades. So I fully support it, because I mean, they were early in the Blu-ray game, and they were, a lot of them were old masters and stuff like that, I think.
Right.
Again, it's weird. I'm a huge Toby Hooper fan, and this is the one Toby Hooper movie that I'm kind of like not, and I'm in the minority because everybody like says Funhouse is their favorite Toby. So I'm I'll upgrade. I'll pick this up. I'll give it another shot because it's been quite a few years since I've seen these movies. This will probably be my third time seeing Funhouse because I know I saw it when I was younger, and I picked up the Blu-ray, of course, when it came out, and I'll definitely upgrade. I mean, anything for Toby Hooper to have his. I mean, the film looks good. I mean, it's a wonderful looking movie. So yeah, I'll definitely pick this one up too. I'm a big 4K supporter too. So like, even though I don't really feel like I need to upgrade because I'm not a huge fan of the movie, I really support the format because I want to see it succeed massively. Because if you have the correct setup, it shows, man, and it's especially if the work's done correctly on these films. And I know that a lot of people maybe upgraded early, and they were seeing a lot of Blu-rays from companies, and they were seeing this like really fucking shitty work that these nothing with like boutique labels. I'm solely directing like at fucking Fox and Disney and all these major companies. They're just fucking doing shitty upscales, and like, I remember when someone did a poll like, what's the best 4K release so far? And I don't know who did this or what it was, but so many people were saying Terminator 2. I was like, it's the fucking worst 4K out there. Like, how can you say that's the best? It's literally the worst.
Absolutely.
The worst 4K release that's probably been out. Other than some like, other maybe some shitty movies. But like, I just didn't want to happen to 4K what kind of happened to Blu-ray in the beginning when people were just taking advantage, putting like DVD, up-reses on Blu-rays, and it was like, wow, there's not really much difference. And I really love that boutique labels were doing this, and I actually like how studios were stepping up and doing stuff like Starship Troopers, The Fifth Element. A lot of that is just incredible. Really, the big one for me was the shitty Blu-ray of Predator that was released, and they did the 4K, which made the film look just so good. Right. It's just a matter. But if you have the right setup, man, I think there's a lot of good work. Blade was fucking perfect. They did a good job. One of the best is Last Action Hero. So a lot of these actually big companies are taking the time to rescan their films and actually put the work into it. So yeah, I'm 100% on if it's done right, and that's where the reviews come in, like Digital Bits and stuff, and the breakdown. And it's not hard to look it up to see if they did a new scan or if they upscanned it. And just pay attention. Now, if you don't also Blu-ray,
go ahead.
If you don't own the Blu-ray and you pick up the 4K, that's fine. Because you're no harm, no foul. I just don't want to see people buy a Blu-ray and then upgrade to Blu-ray or 4K and be like, oh, there's not much difference. Yeah, it's because it was a shit release. So yeah, just pay attention to what you're buying. If you don't own the movie, then who gives a shit? So, but yeah.
The hard part with these two, or maybe it's an easy part, I guess, is that there are from the big studios, there's certain ones that you can really put into a box and say pretty much everything they put out they treat right. Like we've talked about some Sony titles. Sony is probably the best studio putting out catalog 4Ks in my opinion. And
Yeah,
then
yeah. Sony's doing a really, really good job, but it's weird, like stuff like Disney, like
it's
in
awful.
like yeah, it's just like, what do you fucking, like, you're the most powerful company in the world, you can't fucking rescan your fucking movie,
Right.
and then some movies weren't made to be 4K, they were mastered in 2K or something, and then they're upscaled, which is like, it's fine, just don't abuse the format, because then it will die quicker, or people
Right.
won't use it. I think that's the problem too. So anyways, enough bitching.
Well, what's funny is I was going to bring that up after, because it's obvious if you follow Brad on Twitter, you are one of the most I don't want to say technical because it doesn't come across as like nerdy or boring or anything like that, but the actual way that you communicate about these 4Ks is you can see that there are differences. And when people are looking at titles, we brought up Tammy the T-Rex earlier. When people are looking at something like that saying, why the fuck is this in 4K? And the answer is because it can look a hell of a lot better. And it can be something that we preserve better for somebody that literally put their life's work into some of these films. And just because it's not, fucking Captain America doesn't mean it doesn't deserve a 4K.
Yeah. I mean, Tammy was a fun test, and also kind of a fun. Tammy was a fun experiment because, one, I mean, Vinegar Syndrome put their heart and soul into that restoration and that disc because we wanted to do it right.
Right.
And it was a good test of picking such a weird ass fucking movie to do it to. It was a good way to gauge, the people.
Right.
And when we had that, I don't want to call it program, but we had the option, that you could upgrade when we announced it. And I forget, it was a good percentage that did it. Like, I want to say like maybe half upgraded, which is pretty significant that early into the game, man. It was like 2019. And it was like, holy shit, really? Like, all right, well, let's look into this. This is going to be pretty cool because, like I said, if it's done right and the work's put in and, Vinegar Syndrome as a company, incredibly particular if it's able to do it right. If it's not able to do it right, then we ain't going to do it. We'll just do Blu-ray. So just keep, and I see that too. Sometimes they're like, why isn't this 4K? And I was like, oh, that's because, we felt that maybe it couldn't be done properly or 100%,
Right.
But anyways, either here nor there. So
back to Funhouse for a quick second. Not to sound like I'm just agreeing with you on everything, but Funhouse and Eaten Alive are my least favorite Toby Hooper films, I think. I think that a lot of the set pieces on Funhouse are fun. I hate Eaten Alive, I think.
Well, to make me look like a total fucking dick and jackass, my favorite Toby Hooper film is the fucking Mangler. So again, what do I know? Like, I'm just a piece of shit that likes the Mangler and don't like Funhouse. So fine.
Oh yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Funhouse, but it's got its merits and it's got some fun set pieces. It's a cool idea at least. And this is, we talked about remakes earlier. People complain about stuff getting remakes. This is the type of film that would actually probably do really well as a remake. And the sad thing is, it will probably never get one because it's not that type of film.
Yeah, no, I actually, the more we talk about this, the more I'm excited to rewatch it. Because the thing is like, I always tell this to people, like, just because you watch a movie once and you never rewatch it again because you think it's shit, everybody goes through different changes in their life. I've seen films at festivals and I've been tired or something and I've rewatched it years later. I'm like, holy shit, this is really fucking good.
Yep.
There's so many different like things that could be in your life or distracting you. And plus our taste changes. If our taste didn't change, I would be sitting here thinking that Three Ninjas is the best movie ever made. That's what I thought when I was little. But yeah, I know. I always think films should be watched 2-3 times. I'm actually, I'm one of those people that I'll watch like 4K discs, but I'm less to rewatch a movie that I like. Unless it's like a comfort movie or something, or if I just want to put something on the background, like if it's
Right.
Messiah of Evil or Jason Lives, like those two are my like two go-to movies that I just in class of 1999. Those three movies I'll just put on. I can put on every day. I mean, there is actually a stint I think earlier this year where I watched Messiah of Evil like 3 times in a row one day, and I'm also insane and stupid. But yeah, it's one of those things where I watch those, but I'm less likely to rewatch a movie that I really like.
Right.
I'll actually end up rewatching movies that I don't like, that I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't like that movie, but I'm going to rewatch it to kind of get a second chance or third chance. And yeah, because, I'm also the type of person that sees like, if it's well liked in the community, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe even though it's my taste and my taste, but I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna watch that again because I'm obviously missing something here.
Right.
And that's why I've seen like Fight Club like 5 times, and I still don't fucking get it. It's just how I am. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what's cool about taste and why we all like different things. I mean, it keeps these conversations going. I'll
decades later
through the fire and have to fight with people because I think Through the Fire is great and everybody else hates it.
That's true. And I mean, we were just talking about it. Literally, a great restoration can make somebody appreciate a film for the first time too. And this is one.
Yeah.
I'm happy to revisit.
That's what I like about the 4K UHD stuff because sometimes I'll sit down, and I got a pretty badass setup. I got a great TV, sound system that's built by hand, and expensive fucking receiver and all the high expensive cables. I went all out when I upgraded to 4K UHD. I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it top of the line so it lasts me for a few years. And when I put in a disc sometimes, and like that happened last night with like RoboCop, I felt like I was watching RoboCop for the first time again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is, like sometimes you can't watch that movie again for the first time. Sometimes you could do it if you watch it with somebody that hasn't seen the movie before. You can kind of like live vicariously through them, which I always like. But I love watching movies with my kid because it's like, oh, let me show you that. And that's the time I do rewatch stuff. But now she's like 17, doesn't want to hang out or anything. And then like the marathon's really cool because I always say like I like to sit in the very back. And I don't watch the movie. I just watch everybody. I'm like a fucking creep, just stare at people. It's like, are you enjoying this?
Yep. Done that many times.
There's that aspect, but also, like I said, like the 4K thing is something so cool because, putting it on and for Christmas, actually, that one Christmas with COVID, like we hung out with my parents for a little bit, like the day before. My daughter was out that evening, and it was just myself and Janice. And we're like, "What do you want to do?" It's like, "Let's just watch movies. That's fine." So we watched Back to the Future on 4K UHD. We watched Tremors, and we watched E.T.
That Tremors 4K is great,
and all 3 of those are fabulous. And I fucking cried my eyes out watching E.T. And it was just like, man, like this is what it's all about. Like this is the definition of the 4K UHD thing. And and that's why I'm very adamant, and I'm not combative, but I'm argument. I do get in arguments with people. It's like, don't tell people to buy shitty 4K UHDs because
agreed.
It's you're gonna ruin that experience. They're gonna expect something, and they're practically watching a fucking Blu-ray.
Yep.
And that's cool. Blu-ray's great. I mean, obviously, it's still a viable format. We still do it. We still love it. We still watch them. But like, if you're going to make that break, honestly, I think for me, with the setup, and if the movie's done correctly, as far as like being the presentation. It's like watching a movie for the first time again.
Oh yeah. The God, what was it? The Arrow release of it's a True Romance. That one, I think that was the last one that really took my breath away from them.
Yeah, I actually haven't checked that. I haven't checked that one out yet. But I mean, I have 4Ks coming in the mail like every fucking week, and they just go and they sit in there, and I'll eventually get to like it. Last night, I finally got to. I mean, RoboCop just came out, but I've had the Howling Studio Canal for a while, and I popped that in last night, and that's a movie that I've given quite a few chances to that I'm not a huge fan of. I do the thing about the Howling is I enjoy the last 30 minutes a lot. I love the last 30 minutes, but I think if you took Dee Wallace out of that movie, the movie would be boring as fuck. I mean, she's a beautiful woman. She's a great actress. I love watching her. But for me, the Howling, other than the special effects, it's a kind of a boring movie to me. I prefer the zaniness of like the second and third, and I think it's Freaks, the fifth one. That's fun. The Howling 3, I think, is better than the first one. I know. I'm a piece of shit. But anyways, it's. I watched. It was a fucking amazing transfer, and it was really cool to kind of see like Joe Dante's vision on that movie, like playing with the shadows, but the detail that you could see through a lot of things, from a blurry VHS or a shitty, DVD. The detail that is on that disc to where you're seeing what they saw in the theater practically, or even a little bit better. Like, it's such a fucking cool experience. And honestly, it made me have a new appreciation for the Howling watching it like that, because I got to see kind of how wonderful the cinematography was in that film.
There is so many times that I've watched these and thought how amazing it is that we are probably seeing these better than the directors literally ever saw it, other than standing in person.
Yeah. And that's the whole reason of the fucking format and trying to do that is trying to get that pure presentation of what that camera element looks like. The clarity, the clearness, obviously it's, cleared up, but it's not fucking waxy. There's nothing added. It's, pure celluloid. And that's the whole, whole nerd spiel.
It is, but I love it.
Here. Yeah.
Another one that really needed a 4K. Scream Factory is also putting out Dog Soldiers from 2002. This was directed by Neil Marshall, the one that did The Descent. And this is a new 4K from the OCN, approved by Neil Marshall. However, I would say I don't trust that a whole lot, because he also approved their Blu-ray, which looked awful. And this one is also being done by Second Sight, and I'm assuming it's probably going to be from the same scan, because I believe it's supposed to come out around the same time. So no confirmation there. But what about Dog Soldiers? You talked about the Howling. How do you feel about Dog Soldiers?
I was there the day it premiered on Sci-Fi. This was a movie that premiered on Sci-Fi. If people didn't maybe remember that, and I made sure I was at my television set. And honestly, I couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, "This is so fucking well done. This is incredible." And I fell in love with the movie ever since. And yeah, I'll be definitely picking up the Second Sight disc for that. And just because of packaging too, like Second Sight, like they're fucking. I mean, they're killing it with their 4K edition. So yeah, I'm always happy to drop the 60 or $70, whatever it costs. But yeah, no, it's Dog Soldiers is just it's a fun movie. It's a great werewolf movie, but it also has the camaraderie between people and friends. It's got a great execution. They end up at the fucking house where the werewolves live, and you don't even think about it. You're not even thinking about it. They show up, and it's just and there's a lot of great one-liners. It's also that last resort where he starts fucking stabbing them with a kitchen knife and hitting people. They're throwing shit at the werewolves because they don't have any more weapons. And yeah, it's a really just fun time, and it's a good setup. And just it's a great script too. That's the one thing that Dog Soldiers has. It has a wonderful script. And aside from being shot well and everything, it's a really well structured movie. Its use of kind of containment and claustrophobia in the film, because they're in this small house. It's really well, like, they didn't try to frame a lot of stuff wide unless it's outside, which makes sense, because they're showing that wide shot, which they could be anywhere, of course, and then it's all close up. And there's that one fucking miraculous shot in the film where I think they're up in the bedroom and like 3 of the fucking werewolves like rise up, and it's just like, shit, man, game over.
Yep. The way this was made, it really leads into The Descent very well. And I've always been shocked that The Descent is viewed as this perfect, super, cult classic immediately when it came out. And Dog Soldiers, it got that for some of us, but not for everybody, because it's up there. It's very good. Yeah, it feels a lot like The Descent. Especially look at the claustrophobia. That's the whole point of The Descent, basically.
Yeah. It's I think I really haven't. I don't think I've ever disliked a Neil Marshall movie, because I'm a huge fan of his movie Doomsday that he did. I think that's a great kind of throwback 80s film. Mixed genres, because it's like Escape from LA, and then they or New York, and then they fucking hit up like the barbarian like castle, and it becomes like a Viking movie at one time. It's really good. And also his other film that takes place back what's it called?
Centurion?
Yeah, Centurion. Like I fucking think that's great, aside from the shitty CGI blood that shows up in the film. It's still a well done movie, and he has something recent. Maybe I take that back. I haven't seen his recent movie. But anyways, I'll probably.
I realized he made another one recently. All right.
Yeah. It came out like I think it came out like maybe this year, like early this year. It didn't get a lot of press. It didn't get really good reviews either, and maybe that's why I'm pushing it off. But I'm a big fan of his work, and I know he did like a lot of TV, like Game of Thrones, which he's probably perfect for that type of shit. I haven't watched any of that. I've only really stick to his films. I think he's an accomplished director, and he's just very good at what he does. So
looks like he had one in 2020 called The Reckoning, and then he's in post-production on one called The Lair.
Yeah. The Reckoning is the one I'm thinking about. I haven't seen it yet. It didn't get the best reviews, like I said, so that maybe why I'm kind of like apprehensive about checking it out. Right. But fuck it, I'll watch it anyway. It's just when I find time.
Speaking of great films, though, how about Fire in the Sky from 1993? How do you feel about this one?
I love this. Didn't this get a release though?
It came out from Imprint in Australia, so this is the first U.S. release of this.
Oh, I guess I don't have it. No, I thought I had this movie. I don't. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll pick this up. I mean, this is one of those movies that fucking scared me as a kid. Like everybody else that talks about this movie, the abduction and operation scene, like chilled me to the core. That's old news. I mean, everybody talks about that. Yeah, it's just a frightening movie, and I've always been a big UFO person, like following Travis Walton's case and, everything else that kind of surrounded it. And I wrote a script a few years ago that I was trying to option, and I did kind of a deep dive interviewing people that claim to be abducted and stuff like that. And I was trying to find out what scares those people the most. And I was trying to kind of, facilitate that in a script format and kind of what the direction it took me. And my goal was to kind of write the scariest movie ever made. And I think I accomplished it. Is just, you got to sell it to somebody to make it. But anyways, yeah, I spent a long time kind of creating that story. And I wanted, even though I don't believe a lot of those people that were abducted. I still find it fascinating, the stories that they tell.
Right.
I'm a big Whitley Strieber fan too. I've read a lot of his books, and yeah, no, I find it. I mean, I'm a sucker for a few things, man. If you put a cult in a movie, you'll sell me on in a
Same.
heartbeat. You know, if you put aliens in a movie and it's like kind of Grays, not Independence Day style, but if you do like the Grays and stuff like that, like one of my favorite movies of the past few years, and it's a movie that I think I got kind of shit on, was Dark Skies. Like I fucking loved Dark Skies, man. I thought it was creepy. Carrie Russell's always a fucking
She's
wonderful
great.
person to watch in a movie, and yeah, I love Dark Skies, and I thought that was creepy as shit. But that's the stuff I like. Yeah.
Speaking of Under Oath earlier, I'm not sure if you're even aware of this random pull, but I'll just share it. One of the first things that got to me about UFOs and aliens and stuff like that after movies was Under Oath. I think it was their like their second or third like big album. I grew up in Southern California, kind of close to Vegas, and they had interviewed somebody that was close to Area 51 and had it as an Easter egg on one of their discs. I think it was a DVD special, and it was just this guy standing by a truck telling the story about how he saw stuff, and it was so well done on an Under Oath DVD. Random ass.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. One of my favorite things, if you're able to track it down, it's probably like streaming like on Amazon to purchase, but there's this really interesting documentary, and you could believe it or not, that's fine. Well, whatever you want to do. I find the idea of it is the aspect of, it's called Mirage Men, and it's about people that worked for the government, claims that worked for the government, that they would take, you know, old crazy Joe that claims that he saw a UFO. You know, Joe did see a UFO, and they know he did. But what they do is they go and they make him see things, as far as like flashing lights outside his window, somehow getting over his radio with communications, shooting drones up in the air, to make him talk more about it, and like have him talk like, hey, I saw another UFO. What are you going to do? You're going to discount this dude. Yep. And that's what these guys were actually hired and to do. And they're all like, you know, the silhouette voice, altered guys doing this interview, which again, you can believe it or not, I just find it interesting. I find it more entertaining than anything. And the kind of the curiosity, not that I believe that this is a real thing, but it could be. And I think that's the fun thing. And maybe that's why the documentary is made by these guys that are Mirage Men, to make us think, oh, they did this. That's crazy. Why would we believe it? But anyways, yeah, Mirage Men's a fun little documentary.
I'm sure it's a coincidence, but the fact that this Communion that just came out from Scream Factory, and then the documentary TerrorVision is putting out, and then in just a few minutes we'll talk about another one coming from Kino. It seems like there's this big resurgence and interest in it, at least. So cool stuff. Hoping we get some. Oh yeah, and then McPherson tape from AGFA last year, the year before.
Yeah. That was one of the first, I think, partner labels for them. Yeah, the McPherson tape's good. I actually prefer Incident at Lake County, UFO Abduction, the remake that Dean did of his own movie. I prefer that a little bit more. But yeah, no, I remember seeing, I actually didn't know it was called the McPherson tape. That was one of the things that I saw. I saw Incident at Lake County. It was on television, but I think it was like on HBO, so there wasn't any commercial breaks. And I'm just like, I forget. I mean, I was probably like, whenever it came out, maybe 10, 11 years old. And I was flipping through the channels and I caught that, and I thought it was real. And I had no idea what it was. And it scared the shit out of me. And I lived with it for a long time. And then I was kind of started making short films and wanted to make a feature in my hometown. So I had like a couple ideas that I was putting together, and I had this alien script that I was writing, very different from what I was just telling you about. But it was like, we were sitting down, and I had a few people that are helping me, And I was talking to one buddy, and I was like, all right, so basically what happens is like we're at this party and we're like filming everybody, and we hear this noise in the backyard, and we go investigate, and the aliens are there, and they come up, and he's like, dude, this is the McPherson tape. And I'm like, what? He's like, the McPherson tape, you should watch it. And I was like, and this is like, I'm like, I don't know, like maybe 18, 19 at the time. And like I watch it and I'm like, oh fuck. This is it. This is the shit that scared me. I like put it away in my head. Like I wasn't even thinking it was something I saw. I just kind of like, traumatic experience. Right. I buried it. And then I was like watching it that night and I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. I'm like looking around. It's like this aliens in the fucking corner of my room. But yeah, no, it's just a fun little movie. And aliens are fucking scary, man. Like, so many different types of stories. And not like I said, I always find it funny. I always go back to the quote in The Faculty, when it's a lot scarier if you're aliens, do you blow up the White House Independence Day style, or do you sneak in through the back door? And I always like that quote resonated with me because I'm like, yes, aliens have been here. They're here. That's the reason why it's fucking scary, is they're not flying over and blowing up shit. They're sneaking in. They're abducting people in these like rural towns where the population's low. That's what scared me as a kid. And it still kind of frightens me today because it's like, the galaxy's so big and the universe, being alone seems kind of silly.
The unknown.
So I mean, no, I'm not saying I'm Travis Walton. I've never seen an alien been abducted, and I'll never claim that I've seen anything. It's just like one of those things that I kind of want to, like Mulder. Like you could just kind of want to believe,
Oh yeah, maybe many of them are hidden here as private eyes, as we'll find out later.
Yeah. True.
Others coming from Shout Factory. I don't know if you're a big Herzog guy, but we are getting Herzog the Collection Volume 2. This one spans a huge length of time. I mean, first release here is from 1968 all the way up to 2005. 5 discs. This is their second version. And I laugh at everybody when this got announced because all they could do is complain that it's different packaging from the first version.
I mean, Herzog is one of those people that, I've seen a decent amount of his stuff. Obviously not, a huge fan of Herzog. It's kind of an acquired taste, I think, but I think that's with a lot of filmmakers that are crazy, like right. David Lynch and people like that. I'm more of a Lynch fan than Herzog. Not that really they're comparable, but quirkiness 100%.
Of course.
So yeah, I mean, I might pick that up. I don't think I've ever picked up the first one. It just wasn't on my radar. We can't buy everything.
Of course.
He's definitely an accomplished filmmaker. It's just maybe not 100% my bag. But I do like how weird he is. Like, I think he's in Julian Donkey Boy. And he's like spraying the kid with like water. And then he like shows up in the fucking Mandalorian.
He is done
that's cool to me, man. Like that's cool. It's just, I'm just, I only buy so much. And if I did buy it, I probably would never watch it. I just full of stuff. I would like to watch every movie ever made, but you got to pick or choose.
It's impossible. Yep. Speaking of things that most people will not watch, they're putting out the Tale of the Tale of the Princess Kaguya. This is a Studio Ghibli film. Actually, there's a handful of these. They're putting out that The Place Promised in Our Early Days, Only Yesterday, Children Who Chase Lost Voices, 5 centimeters per second, and Panda Go Panda. A lot of these are just re-releases of stuff that they had in their steelbook, and they are the standard releases. But Kino is putting out Love Slaves of the Amazons, and I got to bring up the fact that they are releasing everything in a slipcover now, and I think that we have Vinegar Syndrome to blame for that.
Sorry. Very sorry. I haven't seen that movie, and it looks like one of those jungle movies.
One of those, and it's from that time. It's from 1957. It's probably super tame. In fact, I feel like this was a TV movie. I'm not sure. That's About You, and then this is the one I just alluded to, the UFO incident with James Earl
Oh
Jones.
yeah. It's Del Parsons in that movie, right?
Yep, it's
Yeah,
from
and I just
1975. This is coming
yeah
in June.
yeah that I'll definitely buy. I haven't seen that since I was probably a kid. I don't think it's very good, but I'll watch it again.
Yeah, I think I saw this probably when I was a kid as well. Around that time when I was obsessed with Field of Dreams, so everything James Earl Jones I wanted to watch. But yeah, this is I remember it being pretty decent. It probably doesn't hold up super well nowadays, but yeah, I can't wait to see that one again. And that's it for the week.
That's a lot, man. That's just 1 week.
That is just one since last Friday. That's it.
Oh man.
We did one of these.
So much, man. Like I try to keep up too, and I'll typically I'll go to a website, as far as like Kino or whatever, and I'll like pick up like newest releases. But I mainly stick. I pretty much I think I buy everything that Arrow puts out. I don't think I've missed anything that Arrow, especially the US stuff. I didn't think I have every Arrow release, because I just love the work that they do. They do wonderful work. They curate their line. They're so different too, even though they've kind of put the Academy stuff in with the Arrow. I actually liked the Arrow Academy thing because it made me like think it was like, oh, this is like a better Criterion type thing. But I mean, I kind of like that they put it all together because I mean, it's all the same work. But yeah, no, it's just so many different types of movies and films I saw in film school course and like stuff that I enjoy now. But yeah, I mean I buy still a lot. Maybe I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 discs a week, if that. I've calmed down a lot actually because I officially like ran out of room, until like I build. Like I have a theater in my house, so like I'm actually gonna gut kind of like this closet area, and I'll put up shelves in there, and I'll probably do that to make more room. But I just like when we bought a house, I bought a room specifically for all this shit, and I'm officially out of room. And I still even have movies in the theater. I keep the 4K stuff in there. Sorry for anybody that has like a what do you call it, disorder, like you have to have everything together.
OCD. Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm sorry. It's 11:30 here. I'm a little tired. I've had a big day. I've been up for like almost 24 hours. Yeah, I keep all the 4K stuff in that theater, and then of course I mix my DVDs and VHS and Blu-rays together, if you could see on the shelf. But yeah, I officially ran out of room, and I'm constantly like upgrading stuff too. It's essentially like mainly what I do is I do a lot of upgrades, from DVD or VHS, because eventually, the DVD, the VHS do age. They, even though it's a controlled temperature, they still have mold and grow that stuff no matter how you do it, and how you keep them. So I definitely upgrade those first, and then upgrade DVDs and mainly films that I really like. So yeah, it's just kind of yeah. And plus, like it's like I have like my VCR still, but the tapes are getting delicate, and so I've been doing a lot of like transfers and stuff, and kind of doing my own thing here, because I have a huge collection of like work prints and lost films and different cuts of movies, and
Of course,
I've been kind of doing that myself because I have a large collection from when I was like a teenager collecting this stuff. So kind of transferring those and making sure that they don't disappear is a big concern of mine, because I don't know where they are other than that. So
Yeah, that's important, and that's one of the reasons why, as long as I have, I've always supported Vinegar Syndrome, and that's when they put that mission first and foremost. It's kind of hard to ignore if you genuinely appreciate these things and want them to last. It's one that you can't really turn your back on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's a long journey from film to film, and I know we release stuff every month, but the stuff that we release every month is, stuff that we've been working on for, quite some time, whether it's the rights with the restoration or even with extras. Sometimes extras go a long time, like 6 months sometimes
Right.
in production of making these things, depending on who wants to talk about it. I mean, we've even had, I think the last, I think it was the last gasp that we released. No one wanted to talk about that movie. I don't even think it has an extra on it, which is, kind of upsetting. It's not like we didn't try. And then you have something like Hard Rock Zombies that has like 2 hours of extras on it. And, you know, I spent like 6 months on that documentary about that movie. And it has like 4 things. It has the doc that's like, 70 minutes or something, 80 minutes. And then it has like the special effects guys with Briggs and Everett, Biggs and Everett. And then, we have Susanna Boggs, who played a groupie in the movie. She didn't even have a title. She didn't have a role, but she knew Possible. She was in a band at the time. And, that's how she got on board. She knew all the guys. So she actually did a really good interview. And then we had like superfan Lucy Hall, and, she did a little bit for it. So yeah, that Blu-ray is fucking stacked. And then, I have things like Six String Samurai and the Beastmaster that took, fucking forever to put together. Like Six String Samurai, I mean, from start to finish, I mean, that was years. Jeez. that was being worked on with, acquiring the movie and then doing the doc. And we did that during the height of the pandemic, which was really, really tough. And I mean, even Beastmaster was like that. But yeah, I mean, every film has a different journey. And, I'm very happy with the work that we put into the movies. And then, I'm very proud of the extras that we're able to accomplish and put together. I mean, every day, I put in basically 12-hour days every day trying to do stuff with, watching a movie to acquiring something to doing extras. And that's everybody in the company, or we're all, I mean, those guys, I mean, I feel bad sometimes because they work around the clock for forever, on restorations, making sure everything's perfect, because nothing slips by that's, not perfect. Or, I mean, I always say it's perfect. I don't think we let anything slip by unless it's like, things happen, a mistake or something, but we fix it. But anyways, yeah, it's just, it's just a lot of fun. It's just, I get to live a little bit again. If I knew, like, when I was like 8-10 years old, I knew I was going to be doing something like this, I would have like lost my mind.
Right.
Well, actually, I would have probably been like, "What's a Blu-ray?" But if I knew that I was going to be working on this stuff years later, able to like bring some of my favorite movies with this team of great people at Vinegar Syndrome and just saying, "Hey, what about let's do this wacky ass movie?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure, whatever you say, Brad." But it's the same thing. It's like, "Hey, what if we do this?" And I'm like, "Whatever you say, guys. Like, that's fine." I'm not a big fan, but and that's the thing is like, it's cool because no matter if it's something that maybe, I'm not a huge fan of the movie, it doesn't mean that we don't put forth, or I don't put forth the effort in trying to bring these special features together with our team, which I love doing. So yeah, it just takes all types of movies, man. It's just cool to bring people together and things like that.
Speaking of those special features, we had a friend of yours on the show last week, Michael Keane, and we had a conversation. And one of the things that we sort of commiserated on is how much that we wish we could get some sort of bonus feature on probably not all of these discs because some of them just happen, but on a lot of these, the story behind the acquisitions, the restorations, the if this was a Brad centric film, that he's the one that went to everybody and said we have to try to get this one. Can we ever hear some of those stories?
We've discussed, or briefly discussed. It's just, I like doing these interviews. Justin's done some interviews. Joe's been on, a couple shows promoting the stuff. Curtis has done some stuff promoting New York Ninja. And, even when I was a fan, I had Brandon and James on, the Screencast when I had them on like 4 times, way before I was working for VS. But I get it, but sometimes it's not about us, it's about the movies.
Right. So
if we did something, it would probably be just like slapped on YouTube or something like that. And I know we got pretty good feedback on the 6-String Samurai thing we did for YouTube. And we've done a couple things like interviews and everything. So maybe one day we'll do that, but it won't be for a movie. It'll probably just be in general. Because again, it's not really about us and what we do. Like, we want to focus on the movie, not so much having a piece is kind of like Vinegar Syndrome centric.
Right.
Maybe we'll do something on the side, but again, I don't know. Then that takes away from everything that we're working on, because we work around the clock on all these releases, and we're just too small. But eventually, I know that we get requested that a lot, and it would be cool to kind of maybe go through a little bit of what we do in the detail and how long, because nothing's easy with what we do.
That 10-year anniversary is about to happen. I'm just saying that'd be a pretty cool retrospective disc.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and I'll definitely take that to the team, and it wouldn't hurt. We are very proud of what we do, and I think we do. I think we get enough credit as it is. Yeah. But I know that it's more or less like for the fans to know kind of the process and how long it takes. And again, it's like a different story for every film that we work on. A lot of stuff is easier than others. Others can take years. So yeah, I think it's just kind of maybe a quick thing we can possibly do, but it's just yeah. Well, I'll definitely talk to the team, and we've talked various times, even briefly talking about doing a podcast, like Severin does, which we talked about that years ago. But again, it's just we're super small, and so is Severin, but we've put so much time and focus on the movies, and honestly, it just comes down to time. We just really don't have the time to do it. But again, message received. And, I'll see. Even if it's for 15 minutes, it would be interesting.
Obviously, you can't talk about any future acquisitions, but knowing what you know about all the movies and stuff that you've been passionate about for years, is there a handful of titles that you haven't already said many times in interviews that you'd love to see restored, or that you'd love to get your hands on to get restored, that you'd love to share, just to make up a 5 of what Brad loves type of thing?
Yeah. No, I think that's already happened a lot, with like the severed arm was one thing that I've wanted to see for a long time.
Right.
House of the Dead, Through the Fire, actually, oddly enough, Pledge Night. I think if we kind of lived that, Spookies, some of the Rothrock stuff we've done, Winter Beast. I can actually look at the title. That's why I face this way. It's easy because you asked me, and I'm like, "What the fuck have we released? I don't even know." So stuff just like that. There's always a long list of stuff that we want. The list is insanely long, and there's also other cool companies that get to it sometimes before we do, and it's is no harm in that. I just you always hope that they do it right. But for the most part, there's a lot of people that are doing what we're doing, And yeah, I mean, there's the amount of films that haven't been seen, and the amount of wonderful films that have not been released is in the tens and tens of thousands.
Right.
And I mean, it's an endless supply of films and from other countries. And yeah, I hope one day we can start, being desperate, I guess, but we're not desperate yet.
I get that.
So,
And
lots of cool things to come in the future.
I've had people ask, because these re-releases are coming, does that mean these companies are out of movies to release? And I've had to say up and down, like, no, there's I mean, you
No.
got to realize that, especially when you start talking internationally, any year that you can pull out of film history has thousands of films that have been released. Thousands.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's no one's out of movies. It's just the opportunity, and
Right.
it's not like it's being re-released on Blu-ray. It's being re-released. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess some titles have been re-released on Blu-ray, but again, like, it has to deal with the upgrade. Can the upgrade be made? Like, what was the upgrade like back then? So yeah, no one's running out of movies. It's just, sometimes movies tend to need a little bit more love, maybe. Just put it that way.
Well, and not only that, elements problems too. There's lots of movies that you'll just
Yeah,
never
sometimes new
see.
elements are discovered, and that gives room for an upgrade too, which is cool. And it's about providing people with the best quality possible. And if the upgrade could be there, then yeah, go ahead and do it if it's warranted. If you think that people really would want it or need it. I mean, needs a different thing. Let me throw away that word. We won't say that. Just if if people deserve it and it's warranted. And yeah, no, I think it's cool to be able to improve on something. Not that somebody did something bad in the past, but it's just you have the opportunity to maybe improve on it. And I think that's what it's all about. I think that's kind of how we are as a society. Let me improve my way that I do this. Let me improve my time management. I mean, we always want to improve things.
Right.
And I just think that goes along with the quality of the film. Especially if you like it. I mean, why wouldn't you want to watch your favorite movie in the highest quality format possible or the best presentation? I mean, I know I would. And so sometimes when things are released by a major company, maybe they're not. That happens. There's sometimes movies that slip by, like by a major company, and you're like, shit, man, I wish Arrow did that, or fucking Screen
Right.
Factory, or Vinegar Syndrome, whatever it may be. And that happens too, because that maybe sometimes they didn't take the care and stuff like part of that. So
And a lot of that too is length of contracts and rights and things going out of print. Is there, uh, not that it's a bad system necessarily, but is there a way that some of these people that are trying to catch up on old back catalog titles, now that Vinegar Syndrome is kind of one of the seasoned labels, stuff is going to start going away eventually if some of these rights are expiring? Is there something in plan to tell people that this might be going out of print soon?
I mean, I think we've been pretty vocal on that
Yeah.
so far. Joe has done that kind of in the Facebook groups and
Yep.
kind of forums, is that he was pretty vocal, I think, last year, or maybe
I agree.
I think it was last year, about some of the stuff that was going out of print. Yeah, I mean, we try our best, but at the same time, it's like it's kind of tough to like keep up with that, with what we're doing, and like
It's a lot to keep your arms around.
yeah, it's just a lot to take on. And I Joe has done that. So I mean, I think we try our best, but it's just probably not going to happen all the time. But like I said, I think Joe's done a pretty good job of notifying people to try to get maybe that last minute purchase in, during a sale where it's cheap, and maybe want to
Exactly.
backfill your catalog. And they're doing the best we can in that. But that's again, I mean, just try our best and letting people know. But I mean, every film's a different story, and it honestly, again, it kind of depends on how the movie sells. If it continues to sell well, you re-up the license. If it doesn't, you gotta let it go.
I fully agree there. Acquisitions. Is there any random ass movie that's gotten released in the last handful of months that you haven't shared some amazing acquisition story where something was discovered or you had to go to the ends of the earth basically to track something down?
Well, I mean, I think Miami Connection would be, one of our releases for May. I think Miami Connections like that because when the opportunity came up to be kind of to pick that up, with the opportunity to pick,
It was huge.
yeah, to pick the Miami Connection. I mean, we did, and the opportunity came where we found the material, which, and then we were notified about the alternate version of the movie, which we were able to acquire. That was a lot of fun, because that's a huge upgrade from what it was, what we were given. And I'm really proud of that release. I think it looks great, and yeah, it's out, and it's played very well, and it's really well known with people and kind of this film community. So it was, it's really cool to bring that back out, and then also do a bunch of new extras, with going back, because it was funny because when we were doing the extras, it was like, well, we can incorporate some new people with the extras, of course, but what about all the old, the people that were already interviewed? Because when they were interviewed like right before it premiered and like during that time. So, it played in New York, and then it played somewhere else, and then it played in Austin during Fantastic Fest. And that was kind of the big boom, the big boom for Miami Connection. Draft House Films announced the Blu-ray, and then of course, the film went on. I think it was on Netflix at one point, and then it kind of gained this huge cult following. Well, when all these people were interviewed, they were interviewed before all that happened. So the idea with the extras this time was revisiting everything, but after the fact, one, getting some more clear answers or rehashing some stuff they already talked about, but also like, did you expect this to fucking blow up and be
Right.
as big as it was? So that was kind of cool. We're revisiting Miami Connection again. And then, yeah, we got some new people, as far as the extras were concerned. I think like maybe 3 or 4 new people that weren't interviewed before. So kind of some different stories there, but ultimately putting together that alternate cut of the film,
It's a big deal.
in its entirety. Escape from Miami is the one cut, and then Miami Connections the second cut, technically. So yeah, I think that was a lot of fun. And the extras on there are pretty cool. I mean, it's a funny movie, and I think the extras from the old disc are on that too, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember. I believe they are. But yeah, it's the new stuff is pretty funny, and we had a good time, and I actually got to do a lot of that myself because mostly everybody is here in Orlando.
Nice.
Aside from I think like three of the interviews, but everybody was here in Orlando. So I actually went with the crew and did the interviews myself. We did it over like a 2 or 3 day period, and it was just kind of a blast because these people, they're not filmmakers, they were in this film, that's it. And it's just, they're all ordinary people, that did an extraordinary thing, and that get to talk about it, and they made movies with their friends, and they were all, students and of Grandmaster, and they just did what he said because there's a large amount of respect in that group. It was funny because I was talking to Vincent Hirsch, who plays essentially the lead in the movie.
Right.
I was like, so how did this like work? You ask, you're friends with YK Kim, and he's like, no, YK Kim's not a friend. He's Grandmaster. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, you don't really, because they don't consider each other friends unless it's like Mo, like Maurice, or Angelo, who took a few classes and stuff like that, but ultimately like they weren't essentially part of that, but yeah, I mean, most of the people in the film, the stunts and everything, that was all people from YK Kim's classes. And also Vincent, he was a master at the time, so he had his students, and Joseph Diamond, he was a master too, so he had his students. So they all three had students that helped him with this movie, and then they hired some professional people to help facilitate that.
Sounds
Richard
so much
Park,
fun.
was director, and they hired Maximo Munzi, who did he was the DP on the film, and John McCallum, who did special effects and part of the score. They had three musicians, three composers on the film: John McCallum, Angelo Gennati, and of course Kathy Collier, because they were together at the time. And then I'm forgetting the last guy's name. He did the Escape from Miami song, Bikers by day, ninjas by night. That guy, I can't remember his name. Lloyd Sharp. Lloyd Sharp is his name. So they had Lloyd Sharp do those songs. It's just a fucking kitchen sink movie, I call it, where it just kind of has everything, and just a lot of love in trying to make one man's vision happen. They weren't trying to really make a good. I mean, they weren't making a good movie. They weren't. Good. They were barely even making a movie, if you kind of break it down. Right. But they were able to pull it off. But it was just a lot of dedication from this, group of people. Young adults, and like they said, if YK Kim, Grandmaster, sets his mind to something, it's going to happen. He's going to pull it off. So yeah, it was that was a really fun package. The long answer to your question, but it was a lot of fun to kind of keep finding out, like, we have something that hasn't been seen before. We're able to do a massive upgrade, because you're not talking about a Blu-ray like from a transfer of a negative. You're talking about a print. That was a film print that they used. Right. Wasn't even any type of negative. It was beat up too. So yeah, it's a massive picture change, which is cool, because there's a lot of things that are kind of missing from that print. The blood squirting and some blood that's flying, and the sound is really good, even though the sound, the sound for the film was, a lot of ADR and Foley. There's just a couple lines, like, and then you'll kind of notice it with the two cuts, because Park wanted to make kind of a more, make more of a kind of a violent kung fu film. And then YK Kim, Grandmaster, want to make more of everybody needs Taekwondo in their life. More of a kind of a philosophical, film.
Two very different movies.
yeah. So that's where Escape from Miami is essentially Park's movie, and then YK Kim, basically made Miami Connection. That's the whole story behind it, is that he just couldn't get distribution. He said it's in the deleted scene, so it's not like a spoiler or anything, but Maurice dies in Escape from Miami, and it was just kind of a so they went back, and it was funny because they filmed some more violent stuff too, which is kind of weird. Like I believe when the white ninja and one of the black ninjas, the regular ninjas, comes up, and he's like, "Boss, everybody's dead," and the ninja like chops off his head. That's actually all newly shot stuff. It's Bill Urgel that is playing the white ninja, and I think Vincent is playing the black ninja, and they shot that with basically a new crew and stuff, because no one really came back aside from Maximo, and like John McCallum and stuff. And yeah, and then they of course reshot the ending with Maurice's dad, who was probably younger than Maurice, and they like sprinkled like powder in his hair to make him look older. Which is funny. I don't think we talk about it in the extras, so this is an exclusive. Is that original? Like the picture that Maurice has of his dad in the film, that's actually his father, and his father was actually going to be in the movie, but he was like going on some trip or something, and he couldn't make it, so they got this like guy that was basically younger than Maurice to play his dad.
Nice.
But yeah, it was pretty cool. You know, we we went to everybody's house. We were, we had drinks at Maurice's house during the interview, and he brought out his suit. He still has that suit that he died in. So he shows it off in the doc, and then I of course took pictures with it. And we were like in Angelo's studio, and Angelo played the songs for us and stuff like that. So yeah, it was pretty cool experience interviewing all these people, because they're super like down to earth,
Nice.
and just kind of, and YK Kim, Grandmaster's still at it. He's still doing his thing. So, maybe talking about the extras is more exciting than actually the doc, because I got to live it. So it was kind of a different experience, but it was just really cool. Like I said, we did over like a 3 day period, and just kind of went from house to house. And, they're still kind of weirded out by the success of
course.
the film. But yeah, no, it was fun doing that, and I'm really excited for that to come out. And yeah, it's like no shit. It's a huge upgrade. So it's gonna look, and plus the sound, like the sound's really good in the film too, because the thing that they did hire professionally is they hired people that actually knew how to make a movie and sound good. So like Jeffrey O'Coon, who did the sound, I believe he's won, like, I'm not gonna say Oscars, but the dude's won some like awards. Like he's one of the top sound people, like still today in Hollywood. And he worked on this film. So like, all the music, all the, fight, the punches and stuff like that, that's all Jeff doing that stuff. And, they had that. And of course, like John, who did the special effects, like he was legit. I mean, he's coming down from, working with Don Coscarelli and stuff, and then working on, Miami Connection. So yeah, some of these guys were legitimate, good filmmakers, and they knew what they were doing. And that's what YK Kim wanted, because he didn't know how to make a movie. Right. And it shows in Miami Connection. But I mean, that's the charm of it. I mean, these dudes were sincere making this movie. And they were pretty honest about it. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Like, I even think Joseph Diamond says when they went to go for the reshoots, they didn't, of course, have the crew and stuff. They actually bought books on filmmaking to maybe help them figure out how to do these reshoots. So yeah, it's definitely non-filmmakers making a movie.
Right. And those docs that you guys create are some of the best special features out there. I am always excited to hear when it's getting something, some extensive, like the Spookies documentaries are fucking insane.
The Spookies docs were good. I mean, there's 2 on there.
Right.
Those are good. Michael and Glenn did a pretty good job of getting all those guys together to talk about their experience and stuff like that. And it was just a really cool it's a fascinating story too, because that's a shit show of really behind the scenes, and it was kind of cool from both ends of each doc to kind of go on a different tangent of exploiting the shit show, and it was pure honesty too. Right. Like, no one was really holding back, like, fuck those guys and fuck these guys. And, a lot of people are upset still to this day about that movie. So that was kind of cool to see. And, there's been a few that I've really enjoyed that we've done. Another movie that doesn't get a lot of love, and I think people kind of came around on it a little bit, but was The Fear. I've always been a big fan of The Fear, and so that doc that we did is maybe about 45, 50 minutes. We actually went up to Big Bear where they shot it, and that's actually where the interviews took place. We're at, like, I think right in front of the cabin that they shot in.
Nice.
At Big Bear, and then they went back to like Santa's Village that's still standing, and like Greg, the producer, he went around, and I think he did kind of an interview around kind of where this, the statues were, and then where the train was, where Monique gets attacked in there, and we had a few people that did their interviews elsewhere. And there was 2 commentaries on that. I moderated the one with Vincent, Robert, and the one with Greg. And they both had different aspects. I mean, Greg's coming from the idea to producing the film to the legacy, and then Vincent was brought on from a directorial standpoint to talk about kind of what he wanted to do, what he tried to achieve, but sometimes, it didn't meet all the way because of being a low-budget movie. But I hope people gave it a second chance. And like I said, the extras are pretty fun. What were some other things? I mean, all like the stuff for all the homegrown horrors box set. That was a blast to put together because, I mean, everybody in those groups are still friends, and that was really, really cool. So, getting everybody together for the commentary for Beyond Dream's Door and doing all those interviews. The one for Fatal Exam was a blast because they're all still really, really good friends. It was kind of neat they all got together, and some of them haven't seen each other for a very, very long time. And that was really neat. And of course, Winter Beast, I mean, Mark, I just talked to Mark actually 2 nights ago. Him and I are still in touch after a year of putting this out. I mean, I've known Mark for quite some time. I always tell Mark, he's like, a long lost uncle to me. I mean, him and I chat consistently, and there's no need for us to talk. Like the movie's done,
just
the movie's been out. But he's just a genuinely wonderful person, and someone that probably should have made like 100 films in his life, because from a technical aspect, very smart. You may not know that watching Winter Beast, but
I would say the roots are there.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a great sculptor.
Yep.
Wonderful animator, and he's done a lot like behind the scenes that he's not credited for. Like, he'll just talk for hours about all the stuff that he's worked on but never got credit for. I mean, even I think we talk about it in the extras that Dawkins, the song Burning Like a Flame, the Winter Beast stuff shows up in that music video. The totem pops out of the guitar, and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, he was a teacher at Emerson College, for a number of years, teaching film, and he's just a really smart guy, and just like he's like super down to earth, and always thankful for everything that we've ever done. And still to this day, he's like, yeah, this is so good, because like with that, like Winter Beast, that was actually edited on tape. Right. So when a movie is edited on tape, for people that don't know, like they take the film material, like, what they filmed on, and then they transfer it and they edit everything on tape. So the negatives never cut. So when you restore something like that, you actually have to find the takes that they used.
You're remaking the movie
together, the negative, which is a very, very long process, especially if so the cool thing, there's good and bad about Mark. He never throws away anything, but he also does, like, he never throws away anything, but that's also bad because he collects every single little thing.
Right.
So it's great and bad because it's just all like in this huge, like, Mark basically like lives in a mansion, and he just has a room dedicated to all film stuff. So it's just boxes and boxes and boxes of reels,
You
like
know it's there.
just
You just got to find it.
yeah, and it was just like, you know, you get like the shipment of the reels, and then like, you know, 3 weeks later, it's like, hey Brad, I found some more reels for Winter Beast. And it's like, okay, all right, let's get those in. And it's like, you know, talk to BS, and they're like, hey, we're missing like this shot of this. I'm like, hey Mark, like I know we have everything, but we don't have everything. He's like, all right, let me look. You know, calls back like a week later. Yeah, I found some more reels for Winter Beast, and you know, we're able to do the work print of that film, which is longer than that. You know, obviously longer than the movie, and like it was like Mark shot like 3 hours of movie for Winter Beast.
Jeez.
I was like, why would you shoot 3 hours? The movie's like 71 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell were you doing? And yeah, they even shot stuff on video for Winter Beast, which is kind of funny. But anyways, yeah, just it was a huge process for them and a learning experience. And yeah, he had no idea like people liked Winter Beast. It wasn't until he was playing he was teaching at Emerson, and he gave, I think it was like his first year teaching, and he gave basically his students, like as their, you know, final, like make something, you know, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. And they were like, Mr. Frizzell, like that's hard. And he's like, it's hard. Look at this. And he put it on and he played Winter Beast for his students. And like, he was like, the reaction that he got was just like overwhelming. So then the students like organized like screenings of the movie at Emerson College. So then they would go and watch the movie like yearly. And then that's when the DVD came out, like around that time. So it was like, you know, maybe late 90s or something. You know, Tempe Entertainment, J.R. Brookwalder's company came in and put it on DVD. And that's when I first saw it, you know, because it was just kind of really hard to find movie right. If you even knew about it. So yeah, you know, the film has kind of gained this legacy, like from the help of his students in a way. And yeah, it was just a really, really fun thing to put together. And then of course, you know, Simon Barrett, who wrote You're Next, and you know, his recent film that he wrote and directed called Seance. You know, he's a huge fan of the film, and you know, him and I are pretty good friends. And him and I talked about Winter Beast a few times, and I was like, you know, you want to talk about it? You know, he's very, very inspired by it. Right. You know, as a filmmaker. I mean, because you have to be, like, you know, Barrett comes from a very small group of filmmakers when they made A Horrible Way to Die. And I mean, they were making films before then. They were making, you know, Homesick and Pulp Skull together, shooting like little films. And they made a bunch of independent films that really only played at festivals. I can't think of the one. It's a sex movie. It never actually got released. It only played at festivals or whatnot. But anyways, I mean, now they're working on the Face Off movie, and you know, Adam Wingard had, you know, Kong versus Godzilla or whatever again. So like it's it's kind of a crazy experience for them. But again, like those are low budget regional filmmakers. And so, yeah, of course they're inspired by stuff like, you know, Winter Beast or Fatal Exam, which is, you know, another favorite, which I know that's like kind of the movie that's not as well liked in the set.
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, it's got some really interesting stuff in it. Yes, it's a little long for what it is, but it's got a great score. It's really funny. Like, I find the movie kind of hysterical. So yeah, no, it's a, you know, it was a fun set. So yeah, all those extras, you know, they all have like, you know, some have like crazy backstories, you know, like Winter Beast, where I could talk forever, or something like Surf 2, where there's 4 commentaries on the Surf 2 disc, and then there's the making of doc, which is so, like, talk about silly and insane. Like, you know, I remember like doing the final thing of that, and they're like, how many commentaries do we have for Surf 2? And I'm 4. And they're like, what? And I was like, you don't understand. Like, you know, one was with Randall and Zach on the theatrical one, and then one was with Randall and myself doing the newly discovered. There you go again. Like, you asked that question, so I can actually do this full circle. So when we were doing Surf 2, you know, we had this theatrical cut. So when we got the film, you know, we were excited about it. We scanned it, and then I went to Randall Badot, who, you know, was the writer director of it, and I'm like, hey, we got Surf 2, man. Like, you know, because he's done all these appearances and stuff, and he's like, oh yeah, all right, I'll think about it. And I'm like, wait a second, that was all right. It's like, all right, cool. You know, I ask a couple times, but I don't pressure anybody into this stuff. You know, because some people don't want to talk about it, some people do. But I was just kind of like taken back by that. I was like, oh, man, you don't want to talk about it? That's weird. So I kind of let it go for a little bit, and I gave him a call like a couple weeks later, and I'm like, hey, you know, so let's, you know, do this, you know, commentary. You know Zach Carlson pretty well. He's actually going to be in LA at the time. I was like, he could do the commentary with you and facilitate the interview. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I guess so. He's like, you know, I'm not a huge fan of the movie. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, that's surprising because you did these, you know, interviews. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I just, you know, kind of did that on a whim. He's like, the real issue is that my cut of the movie has never been seen. And I'm like, oh shit, like that's crazy. I didn't even know there was another cut. Right. And so originally he had a tape of his cut, you know. And so I was like, well, you know, absolutely, we can put that, you know, cut on the film. We'll, you know, take your tape, we'll, you know, transfer it, digitize it, put it on the disc, whatever. But also on that, I call, you know, my best friends at Vinegar Syndrome, and I'm like, hey, so there's this other cut of the movie. And so, you know, we talked to Randall, and he was like, well, he's like, actually a print was struck from it. I was like, oh shit, okay. So Joe, being as amazing as he is, did some detective work, and like, I don't know, like 3 weeks later, you know, Randall ends up doing the commentary and the interview, and then, you know, he's happy that we're putting the VHS on the thing, and then we find the print, you know, and it's like we have access to it. We're going to scan it. It's going to be an alternate version on the film or on the disc, and Randall, like, complete, like 180.
That's awesome.
You know,
I always love this story.
Yeah, he gets super excited. Of course, we do. You know, him and I do the commentary together. You know, then I had Zach and Brian Conley do, and you know, they're the authors of you know, the punks and movies and stuff like that. And then, you know, Eddie Deason did an interview and a commentary before he was arrested at a diner. Something like that. I don't know what happened to him. But anyways, yeah, it's you know, but again, we had so many people that wanted to be a part of it that were a lot of behind the scenes people. We didn't even have the stars of the movie, like Eric Stoltz and stuff like that.
Right.
We kind of had all these like kind of back players that had even better stories.
And it's still
so, you know, we had the doc on there, and of course Fern Champion, casting extraordinaire, who's never been interviewed, by the way, was very happy to do it, and she is as Hollywood as you can get, old school Hollywood. You know, she's very confident in what she's done. You know, she's doing her interview. She's got a glass of champagne. She's telling stories about how she's done this, done that. She's wonderful and very charming, but she's like old school, like Hollywood. But yeah, it was a great package deal, and you know, at the time, you know, it was really cool to get Eddie to be a part of that, because like he almost died like beforehand, and he had you know, some heart issues. I think he collapsed like at the airport, so like he was like on life support and stuff, and we were in production for this thing. And I was like, you know, all the people that I can't get, it would be really weird if I couldn't get Eddie Deason from this film. So I talked to his brother, and yeah, he was like out of the hospital for like a week or something, and we did the interview, and he also did a commentary, which was pretty cool. And Eddie is a very unique individual, so put it that way. But yeah, no, it was a stacked release, and also one of the things that we kind of did a booklet on somewhat. It was like past writings and stuff, but that was pretty cool to put together. But yeah, it's like, you know, for a goofy, weird movie like that, it was very, very stacked releases, or with the release was stacked with extras. Absolutely. Which was, you know, it was fun to put that together. It was a blast, and everybody had a really good time, you know. And then that's the cool thing about this too, is that you want you know, filmmakers, actors, you know, producers, directors, whoever worked on the film, I want them to be excited to tell these stories, because that's the best performance. There's either two things. One, I want you to be excited. My also favorite is when somebody says, I don't have anything to say. And I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. Because that is the best interview. Because once you start asking them questions, they open up and they have so many great stories. It's usually the people that are aggressive about it, be like, yeah, I have so many stories, and then an interview is like 15 minutes, and it's like, you know. But yeah, no, it's fun because it's kind of like a screening of a B when I'm on the phone with them. And kind of the most common question right out of the gate is you know, why the fuck are you releasing this movie? It's terrible.
I expected,
you know,
that.
And it's like, yeah, you may think it's terrible, but it's got actually a pretty good following, and people like this, and they like you. And once you warm up to them and they understand it's not a joke, you know, if they, because sometimes I'll write an email or something, and sometimes I don't know if it's the right person or not. You know, because a lot of this is investigations and stuff, trying to find out if these
decades later, literally.
Yeah, and I'm like, would this happen to be blah 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 from this schlocky 80s movie? Insert title, of course. And then it's like, who is this? You know, and it's like, okay, I just want to make sure it's you, because I don't want to go through this writing all this long ass email. One, the email comes back to me, gets rejected, or, you know, it goes to spam or something. Or, you know, you call on the phone and it's like, you know, and plus, like, maybe it's not somebody like Mark Singer that's been in a bunch of movies. It's somebody that's been like in 3 movies, and you call them and it's like, hey, is this so and so from this movie? And they're like, how did you get this number? You know, and eventually, like, they always warm up to you, but I can understand, like, being like, hit the brakes. I mean, that very much happened with New York Ninja with Adrian Meltzer, where we find out who the actress was. You know, it was like, holy shit, we have a name, actually. Let's try to find out, because we were still very new to not knowing really what happened on that movie. And I talked to Adrian for like 6 months before she agreed to do anything. You know, it was kind of tough because she was very apprehensive. She thought it was a joke, like, for a long time. And I was just talk to her. Like, I talked to her maybe like once a month until she was like, okay, like, this obviously isn't a joke. And I was showing her footage from the movie, and she's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, this is actually a real thing. And, you know, she came out to the screening in LA. She was there for the premiere, you know, because she came out, Cynthia Rothrock, you know, Don the Dragon Wilson, Leon Isaac Kennedy. And yeah, it was a great screening. But, you know, from start to finish with getting her to be a part of it was a huge thing, you know. And then when she was there, she, like, it wasn't until she talked about it, like, at the screening, like, she was like, oh my God, like, this is actually a real thing, when they first contacted me. Because, I mean, from start to finish with her, it was like a year, you know, of talking to her. Even inviting her to the screening, she was very apprehensive, because she thought maybe it was still like we were making fun of the movie. And, you know,
New York Ninja was so big, it seems like, for you guys, that it permeated so much more than I expected. It was everywhere for a while. Obviously there's a lot that went into it. Like, when did, if you can share, when did all of that start? Because that had to have been a very long process.
Yeah, so New York Ninja kind of happened when I was first. So I started doing stuff for VS like probably like a year and a half prior. And one of the very first titles I ever worked on was The Undertaker. So whenever that was released, because I knew the guys for quite some time. I was a beta tester on like exploitation TV. I kind of bugged them. It wasn't until like exploitation TV, because it was a beta test, so it wasn't open to the public yet. So they had a few films on there that they weren't viewing to the public. It wasn't like bootlegging or anything, but they had a few films on there, and one of them was The Severed Arm. And I was like, wait a second. I was like, The Severed Arm's on here, and they're like, yeah, we don't have the rights to that. We have a film print. We wanted to put it on there, but we're looking into getting the rights. And I was like, okay, but when you do that, like, please, I want to be involved at some capacity, because that's the movie that made me want to become a filmmaker. No shit. Like that movie still is very near and dear to my heart. And then they also had House of the Dead, which wasn't released yet. I was like, those two movies like are like that's me. That's my life. Like those two movies. I grew up on those movies. And they said, yeah, sure. So anyways, I like I said, I started doing that, and then I eventually came like kind of on board fully of August of 2019. So right before we did the thing in at Fantastic Fest with Tammy. So it wasn't even like my first week at VS fully, and I get a call from my boss Ryan, and he's like telling me, and he's like, hey, so there's this really weird thing that we're looking into doing, and I need you to talk to Curtis, who's going to help facilitate this. And I was like, okay, cool. So I get introduced to Curtis, because I didn't know Curtis yet. And Curtis calls me, and I've never talked to this dude before. And he's like, hey, he's like, so, we're working on this thing. He's like, have you heard of the filmmaker, John Liu? And it was on the phone, so I heard John Woo, and I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah, man, it's like fucking hard boiled. He's like, no, John Liu. And I was like, oh, yeah, the guy that can kick, Invincible Armor guy. And he's like, yeah, that guy. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, he's like, so we have these reels from this film that he did. That's, there's no sound, there's no script, it's unedited. And I'm like, on the other end, I'm like, well, that sounds like a fucking clusterfuck. Good luck, man. And he's like, so we're trying to find this guy, and just kind of see what happened. So that was kind of the start. And then, eventually it all kind of went from there. And, kind of maybe around, this is probably a good time to have Curtis on. So it was probably like maybe around end of the year, like November, December. It was like, well, we're scanning the movie and it looks pretty good. Like we might have a movie here, because we were unsure if there was even a full movie. So after all the footage was scanned of fucking hours and hours of fucking bullshit, just crazy shit. They just shot whatever. Yeah, I mean, so that was 2019. And then we premiered in 2021, October 2021. Yeah, I mean, it was almost 2 years to the day of putting all that together.
So much work.
Which it was, it's not that long of a time. I mean, one, we had all the movie already shot. So, I mean, it was basically post-production on a finished movie. Which I guess, 2 years is a very long fucking time to do that. But again, like we had to assemble everything. We had to see if we had a full movie. We had to, make that initial cut of the movie, which was a lot longer. It was like originally maybe 2 hours, and I'm sitting there watching it silently, and I'm like making notes. This needs to be removed. And Curtis is like, we don't even have fucking dialogue yet. What are you talking about? It needs to be removed. Oh, well, I'm watching a silent movie. You never watched a silent movie before and figured out it's too long? So yeah, Curtis is still like, he was such a, I mean, we worked together every day, but he was so great, a great partner to work with, because we did very well at bouncing ideas off of one another. What would work, what wouldn't. Eventually, like, was an hour and 45 minutes, and became basically like an hour and 40 minutes, and then became like an hour and 30, whatever the running time is now. But yeah, it took a while to get there, and then we hired 3 Beep to do the sound. Then we hired the actors. We wrote this, trying to lip read from these people, which we did not hire a professional lip reader, which is a rumor that goes around, but that is not true. This is Curtis's project, man. He did all that shit himself, and I just helped facilitate his needs. I made a few creative decisions here and there, but essentially it's all Curtis. Curtis edited that movie together. That was all him. I just said, probably take that out. That's all I did. And then of course, like, Justin Liberty gave the idea of Don the Dragon Wilson, being the voice, and Cynthia kind of came in. Like, that was just kind of Linnea Quigley was very obvious. Kind of Ginger Lynn was obvious, but and then we knew Matt Mittler, so that was kind of easy to do. But yeah, it was kind of Vince Murdurko doing the voice of Jack the cameraman. That was essentially kind of my idea. Having Leon Isaac Kennedy for Detective Williams. That was, we wanted, obviously we wanted to match up in the ethnicity of the actor. So obviously we wanted a black actor to play Detective Williams, and we kind of threw around a different names. It's like, well, penitentiary, Leon Isaac Kennedy, that would be great. So that worked. But the biggest one, kind of up for grabs and kind of a debate, was the Plutonian Killer. Very, very important, role. It was a very important, it was kind of vocally demanding,
Right.
so we went through various like actors and stuff and different ideas of who could do it. And at one point, we kind of were stuck because some of the actors that we were considering were like, we don't know if they could actually do that, or they didn't want to do it, they turned it down. But then I was like, I remember saying to them, like, what about Michael Berryman? And they were like cool, like, you can kind of see this Michael Berryman being this actor. You can see him visually, with his look.
Absolutely.
Hills Have Eyes. He plays the monster. He plays the mutant. He doesn't really talk, so that was kind of hard. So they were like, okay, well, give us an idea. So I think it was like interviews that they watched of kind of Michael Berryman speaking, and like how smart and articulate he is. And, that's kind of, and they were like, oh yeah. And then Michael, just kind of fucking knocked it out of the park. And
he is such a nice dude too in person.
Yeah, he's incredibly nice, and he's very, very smart. Like, even though he plays a dumb redneck mutant half the time, he's very smart too. Yeah. He plays it. Yeah, he gets typecasted as that. He doesn't mind. That's just what he does. So there's it was pretty cool to kind of see kind of that aspect out of Michael Berryman doing that role. And he just nailed it, and he really, really brought that character to life, which we were essentially a little worried about. Like, is that going to go?
Right.
And, it was kind of in his interview, not his interview. We did, we extended the offer to him, and then we kind of did a meeting beforehand, before he went in the studio, and he completely got it. He understood what we were doing, and we were very thankful for that, because people consistently that we're not making a funny movie,
right?
We understand what you're going to see and the lines that you're going to be saying, they're not funny, but they're going to be funny because you're saying them and you're going to see what's happening on screen. But you have to understand, we're making a movie that is from 1984, you know, and we're making it like they would of back then.
Right.
So that was kind of the idea of, you know, kind of going that route of, you know, the casting of New York Ninjas. So yeah, essentially 2 years. Well, again, another story, but yeah, no, it was a lot of fun, and man, it was just a wild ride. And plus it was all during the pandemic. So that was even tougher.
Yeah,
You know, we recorded remotely with everybody, you know, they recorded in their hometown, and then Curtis, you know, was his Zoom set up, and they had the thing going on in New York to record everything.
Jeez.
So all that, and yeah, I mean, they did a great job. We had a great team behind it all. And then of course, all like the ancillary characters were done by professional voice actors.
Right.
Which is funny. It could be the other way around. But we wanted to keep kind of the authenticity, you know, we wanted to keep the authenticity of some movies, you know, where sometimes it was a little wonky with the dialogue. And it worked. Yeah, it was just, you know, we consistently said we're making this movie in 1980. You know, we're not making anything hokey. We're not poking fun. You know, there's a couple little things in there. There were things that were kind of like nixed because it's like, maybe that goes a little overboard. You know, that might be pushing the love of kind of the camp to it. So yeah, we just played it straight. And of course, some things we had to make up. You know, that there was scenes in the movie that didn't make any sense, but those opportunities were times to actually tell the story.
Right.
Like there's that one where the mailman meets the detective in that alley, and there's really, like Curtis said it at the screening, there's really no reason why they're together. They should never talk to one another. And they're friendly for some reason, or they're working together. What is the purpose? But being that they kept turning around and their backs were against the camera, we could say whatever the fuck we wanted. And that's when all the exposition drops of what they're trying to do and everything. So, you know, Curtis basically said he was stuffing all that stuff in one by one of everything that he needed to clear the story up to kind of make sense of what was going on, because we didn't know.
Right.
And yeah, I think it pulled it off. And of course, you know, the bomb ending is, you know, a scene from Exterminator Part 2. The exterior just kind of able to overlay that, because eventually it just ends with them flying off, you know, and they ran out of money. You know, the company went bankrupt and they ran out of money, but we're able to kill the plutonium killer with a bomb, and it worked. I think it did. Like I said,
it's a triumph. I mean, in every sense of the word. And I understand about, you know, you can't really set out 37 years later to try to make it funny. If it did come across like that, it would have just felt phony the entire time. And instead, it feels earnest. It feels genuine, and that is such an achievement to be able to do that.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, that was the thing, is like, you know, we watched the movie silently for a number of times. And when we were laughing at it silently without knowing what was going on, any dialogue, I was like, well, if we're laughing now, let's not fucking add anything. It's funny. Right. You know, the ninjas on roller skates. We can't make anything funny. And then, of course, you know, another thing that I didn't talk about, but Voyager 3 did fucking fantastic job. And the music was a huge part for me. And when we got to the music, oh my God, I was like, I'm so tired of this. Like, you know, even though I enjoy some of it, I'm so tired of the synthwave type thing, of these new bands doing this, like, we want to be like John Carpenter type thing. And I'm like, oh God, I was, please let it be good. And so, yeah, they got Voyager 3 and then, it was, Curtis sent me one of the tracks. I think it was like the Rooftop first. And I heard it and I was like, oh shit, man. Like, that's really good. It actually sounds authentic. It's not winking at the camera or winking at all. Like, it's just really good. And, you know, when we put it with the movie, it just, it all just
It
came
works.
together, and I was like, oh shit, this actually does sound, semi 1980s, where it's not too much. And that's the thing. These times, these like songs are like super fucking loud. I mean, you're a music guy, like you just know, like
Yeah.
the song is like, that's great if you're like smoking fucking pot and closing your eyes and then
Right.
embracing, that's fine. That music's fine in that instance, but when it's put into a movie and trying to like
Doesn't work.
capture these, it just doesn't work because it's just too much. They're trying too hard, and Voyager
Right.
3 didn't. And they tried very hard, but they didn't try too hard to make it authentic. And I think that's what worked.
Completely agree there. One question that is going to sound like I'm trying to get prying information, but I'm not. Obviously, Ebola syndrome was the first title kind of like that from you guys, and you've brought up kung fu and martial arts and stuff tonight. Are there fans of Asian cinema in Vinegar Syndrome? Because obviously we've not gotten a ton of that from VS, and that's a big
We
push from a lot
are,
of boutiques right now.
yeah, we of all types of cinema at Vinegar Syndrome.
That's what I figured.
I mean, all of us have backgrounds in film. Justin went to film school.
Right.
He studied film. I mean, Joe's been in the film industry since, and plus a lot of us have worked on movies before we worked. So we're not just people that are, just looking for a job that got pulled in. All of us have different backgrounds, and we're all film lovers, and some of us are film historians. We studied film and whatnot. So, I mean, I could go all day of every film that I like, from like, French New Wave to musicals to, video stuff. I mean, Vinegar Syndrome is curated to the point of we all like in-house, essentially.
Right.
Stuff that we really like, stuff what we want to see out, stuff that we want to see reissued and back out on the market. So, I mean, to say any type of movie, it's everything, and yeah, I mean, there's plenty of stuff that's coming that's kind of out of nowhere and bizarre and weird. And, it's kind of the rest of kind of the lineup for the end of time is stuff that we love and we want to see. And that's the answer.
Well, speaking of what's coming, May's sale feels like we talked about upgrade a lot with Miami Connection, and everything feels like a massive upgrade. Miami Connection, Thriller, Cloak and Dagger, everything coming out. These literally huge titles, things that have fandoms that have lasted decades, and they are seeing releases either for the first time on Blu-ray even or 4K. But they're upgraded to the point that we've never really comprehended that they could look this good. And you guys are killing it. And going into the sale, other than the new titles, if people loved Brad's favorite titles like Severed Arm, the Through the Fire, the Fear, stuff like that, what are a handful of titles that you would say not enough people are looking at, and you really strongly recommend them this time?
Yeah, I always have my couple go-tos, and I still don't love like maybe they bought the movie and they haven't watched it because I haven't seen a reaction. But one of my favorite titles in our catalog is The Telephone Book.
Such a fun movie.
I'm a huge fan of The Telephone Book. It's quirky, it's weird, it's cute, it's super funny. It's borderline, it is sexploitation. It's got kind of a softcore element to it. Just really funny movie, and I really love that film to no end. And I feel like a lot of people may have bought it, but they don't really watch it.
Agreed.
And or they just don't talk about it. Maybe they don't like it. Maybe that's why I'm not hearing anything. But yeah, the Telephone Book, Hot and Saucy Pizza Girls is always another go-to film that I think one of our best hardcore films aside from Stiff Competition and Dracula Sucks. I talked a little bit about Pledge Night. Pledge Night is a film that I've loved for a very long time. I have the theatrical poster in my theater, and my fiance hates it because it's the hand out of the toilet with a banana.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I mean, I've loved that movie for quite some time. Yeah, The Severed Arm, House of the Dead. I really love. Candy Snatchers, I think it's just a
That's a
great movie in
masterpiece.
general. Um,
Yeah.
Honestly, one of the best films in our catalog as far as like film goes is fucking Sudden Fury. Like Sudden Fury is a great cat and mouse like
It really
thriller
is.
and incredibly well done. And I got uh, probably like a couple years ago. I want to say pandemic, but my mother had to leave to go up north because my great grandmother was sick. She was kind of on her last last hurrah, and
Yeah.
so my dad was elderly, so I had to kind of hang out with him. I went to her house and spent the night, a couple nights while my mom was in Ohio because she couldn't leave my dad for too long. And so my dad is like, well, Lish, can you bring over a couple things of what you do? I was like, yeah, sure. So I brought over films, and I brought Sudden Fury. And after it was over, that's the best movie I've ever seen. So it was my dad's endorsement. And then
Nice.
one of the other ones I showed, a very funny story is I showed him The Suckling. And, because he likes monster movies. And it was so funny. He, I told him, I was like, yeah, this is actually like one of the first films that I brought to VS, as an acquisition. And he knew that. And like, he turns to me like halfway through the movie and he's like, does Vinegar Syndrome know about this movie? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you're going to get fired. He's like, this is terrible. And anyways, yeah, but the endorsement of my dad loving Sudden Fury, that's one of them.
It's a spectrum. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, other ones that I really love, Night Beast. I love. It's a good kind of sci-fi regional, even somewhat of kind of a slasher movie at times. Don Dohler is an amazing filmmaker, made countless great movies. Well, maybe like 7 movies. Sorry, still late, but yeah, Don Dohler is incredible. I mean, I can actually look up here some stuff that I don't think gets much play. I was really happy people came around on All American Murder because I was really happy that we got that, but I was also really afraid when we acquired that because it's fucking insane movie. Like it's so silly.
The dialogue in
that. But people got it and they were tweeting about it and they were like, holy shit, American movie or American movie, All American Murder is like, American Movie is a good doc too. You should watch that. But All American Murder it's just this really weird kind of quirky movie that works and it's just kind of all over the place. Of course, I'll throw Through the Fire in there. Killer's Delight, I think, is a great
that one surprised me.
Overall film, and I was really happy with the extras on that because everybody's old as hell. But they still got it. We did a few interviews on that disc. One that kind of like came in like when it was first announced, and like people got it and they really liked it. And then I saw it die down. And I hope maybe during the sale it does better, but Shallow Grave, I think, is phenomenal. It's so good, and it seemed like it got some traction to start, but it quickly died off. So I'm hoping maybe with the sale, being it will be cheaper, people will pick it up. But yeah, Shallow Grave's definitely like a highlight, I think, in our catalog. Resurrection, I'll recommend to no end because I love that. Even if it is kind of a 7, I mean, it is kind of a 7 ripoff, but they were going for a little bit more than that.
It's wild that those two came out in the same month. That was like a very big month for Vinegar Syndrome. It felt like.
I think it was Auntie Lee's Meat Pie, Shallow Grave, Resurrection, and Devil's Story.
Yep.
Fucking silly. It was silly month. Death Promise is definitely something that catches people's eyes, but let's focus more on kind of the stuff that is forgotten about.
I've been championing on this one. Buddies is one of my favorite films in the
catalog. Buddies is actually a very important film, especially tackling the AIDS epidemic in such a timely manner, but also important. Buddies is great. Decoder, I think, is another one that doesn't get a lot of love.
Yep.
That's if you're in kind of like that new wave Liquid Sky stuff, German expressionism, kind of told in an 80s drug-fueled heroin neon lights way with penis mutilation. Decoder's your type of movie. It's I'm a huge fan of some of our kind of sex thrillers, but kind of Party Line is really cool, and In the Cold of the Night I really dig. I think that's like a handful. I was trying to hopefully think of something way out there. What did we release recently? Of course, like I'll give one. So there's a VSA title, The Grave. I think The Grave is fucking great. And it seems that one didn't make any waves, even if it was a VSA title. But The Grave is really this really cool, sweaty, grimy kind of Louisiana sweat. I call it like a sweat thriller, where everything's wet and everybody's sweating and there's bugs everywhere. Everybody was miserable during this shoot, by the way. They actually did film in the swamps. But yeah, it had a couple of kids that wrote and directed it. They were super young at the time and kind of promising careers, but the movie weirdly didn't do very well, and it had a great cast. I mean, like Keith David's in it, Craig Sheffer, Donald Logue. It's got a great cast, and it's a really well made movie, and it's probably one of the better looking movies that we've released. And I just hope people maybe check out The Grave a little bit more, and watch your VSAs. Just don't collect them.
Watch some good releases.
Crack them open.
I just posted a review recently of Fortress of America, and man, that's a fun movie.
That's a doozy. One of the more recent ones, I know kind of the Jalal Mary stuff seems to be a little mixed with people. I'm a fan of Jalal and those kind of 90s direct to video action movie, but Talons of the Eagle I think is just a great spectacle of action. I'm a huge fan of that. All the Forgotten Gialli sets, of course, I could promote. Sister. I think Sister is incredibly. It's a really well, like, if we want to get into like between zany stuff like Devil's Story, but also like really well made movies. Right. Sister is something I've been championing for quite some time, and I was really, really happy when we got it. Because it's first off, it's directed by Bill Condon, who's done a slew of great films, even though he did tackle a couple of the Twilight movies. But it's shot by Stephen Katz, who shot Messiah of Evil, which I talked about earlier. He shot Blues Brothers, and Stephen Katz is like, he's one of the best DPs ever to exist. And Sister, he really shows it because it's kind of this like gothic tale. Again, for some reason I talk a lot about movies set in swamps. I know I'm from Florida, but it's not on purpose. But yeah, it's just kind of like, deep south, like Louisiana, kind of like, gothic story with a great cast of, Eric Stoltz, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and a couple of other quirky characters. Just a really well done kind of slow burn movie. And I hope people watch that and enjoy it. because it's kind of a different take kind of on that Southern Gothic tale. Another movie I saw a little, I was surprised of kind of like how well it was received. And a movie that I'm a fan of, but I was a little worried about how it was going to be received, was Curfew. I think Curfew
is good. Yeah.
Was a film that I was very surprised that people actually got and like really liked. Because I was a little worried about it. I was like, how people are going to review, like, kind of, respond to Curfew. But honestly, I've seen nothing but really good things about that. And which I was, I believe in the movie. I like the movie. I think it's very good. But I just wasn't sure it was up people's alley. But I was wrong. And that's always cool. It's always really cool to be wrong when it goes the positive way. Not so much when you think a movie's going to blow everything out of the water. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, I don't like this. And it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, that's fine, but that's a good point.
So how about the Screamcast? You posted about that recently. Is that coming back?
Yeah. I mean, it was, as every podcaster knows, because it's like, I always joke that podcasting is kind of like the new garage, and everybody has a podcast. But I mean, the Screencast started probably almost 10 years ago, and it developed quite a huge following. I mean, we were one of the very first podcasts to cover kind of physical media and, kind of dissect it and, just talk about films, have guests on. We certainly weren't the first podcast to do anything like that, but one of the first to actually tackle like reviewing Blu-rays and stuff and making sure people got their money's worth. Because again, I buy physical media and I want to make sure that people knew what they were getting into,
Exactly.
Because even though it caused a ruckus and some trouble, I was fucking brutally honest with stuff. And I had people stop sending me stuff because they were like, well, if you're going to be honest, people don't want to buy it. And I'm like, yeah, put out a better disc.
Exactly.
So, we tried our best to kind of, be transparent, tell the truth, and obviously have some fun talking about movies. And of course, being that podcasts were changing and everything was coming out, more and more podcasts, we tried to like rebalance and reform, and it just never worked. And, that wasn't our life. We weren't relying on views and, likes, subscribes, and, Patreon. I mean, we did have one, but we weren't really relying on that. It was more or less for fun. And we kind of, because we were trying to change it, I think, so much, we just kind of got overwhelmed with it because we had like day jobs, we had families, stuff like that. And, we tried numerous things. We even tried bringing it back a couple times. It just didn't work or just didn't feel right. And then eventually it just kind of collapsed on itself. I mean, everybody was,
everybody's
cool.
Busy.
We're all still friends. But we just got tired of doing it, and it just never worked out because we had so much other stuff to kind of, do in our lives,
right.
Especially working, at VS and doing that. And we were kind of talking, talk to Sean and do that. And we just kind of, I mean, I miss podcasting. I mean, even if no one listens, it just kind of like, it's a cathartic thing,
Absolutely.
Like I'm sure a lot of YouTubers feel that way. It's not about so many times you get the views are nice, and the comments and likes and subscribers, that's cool. It's always nice when people are actually listening to you and commenting and engaging. But sometimes it's just fun to do it yourself. It kind of gives you like you could say something that you want that you can't say in 100 characters or a Facebook post, and then it becomes this whole kind of bullshit, thing that people start arguing and whatnot.
Of course.
But podcasting was just kind of a fun way. So we've just been talking about it and bringing it back, and not having any segments and things that we need to do. Just kind of talking about movies and reviewing stuff, and talk about some Vinegar Syndrome stuff, maybe behind the scenes stuff on discs, and kind of having a good time, just bitching about movies essentially, and just being chill and just discussing stuff, on a fun level, an academic level, and stuff like that. So Yeah, I mean, I think we have a kind of a good idea of what we want to do
Nice.
and put here, and hopefully it lasts this time because I mean it was weird, man. We were doing incredibly well at one point, and that's kind of when it all collapsed because I think we were trying too hard to keep up with everything, and we just kind of got burnt out on it. But I'm sure a lot
That
of
makes sense.
podcasters and YouTubers can agree on that. Sometimes trying to do content, you get burnt out.
Oh
you
yeah.
know, on trying to come up with new stuff because at that point in time we kind of maybe did look at it as a competition, and I think that's what kind of hurt. It's not that we wanted to be better than anybody else, but you want to be heard, you want to do well, especially as much time as you're putting into something. So I get it,
Of course.
and I think that's what eventually kind of just made everything just kind of collapse on itself. So yeah, it's good to be back. Hopefully it stays. Stephanie's going to be back with us, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's going to be kind of the three of us talking about movies, bitching about stuff, and just having a good time. So I hope people listen and tune in.
I agree, and it is available everywhere. Are you still going to be posting those to YouTube also?
I don't know. Probably not.
Cool.
I don't know. It's like one of those things that we just kind of do it and then we put it out there. I mean, we're not going to try hard to get views or anything. It'll probably be on all your podcasting needs, but it's easier for Sean to just drop it into that rather than putting up with the YouTube thing. And then I don't know. YouTube kind of sucks, to be honest with you.
It definitely does.
Yeah, probably not. It'll just probably be like on Apple and Spotify and Stitcher or whatever.
There's 74 options.
Yeah. I mean, just whatever. Hopefully, it's not a platform you listen to. If you don't have the platform, then that's fine. You don't have to listen to it. I'm not going to ask anybody. I'll probably not even really talk about the episodes that we do. It's just like I said. It's more kind of a cathartic thing that we want to do, and just kind of bring some cool stuff back.
Well, that sounds awesome. I think we both probably need to get to some sleep. Thank you for all your time today. This has obviously
I appreciate you having me.
More than 3.5 hours, and that's crazy to take from you, especially after being up for 24 hours straight. So we appreciate you.
It's probably getting a little close. Probably will go to bed. I was gonna say maybe I'll watch a movie, but it's a little late. So, but yeah, I appreciate you having me, and thanks for everything you do and educating people on the sales and what to do, and kind of breaking it down, because I know it's a lot of money out of the gate, but if you kind of break it down and listen to people that actually aren't part of the company, that are trying to buy the product, and actually listen to somebody that is kind of solo and spending their hard-earned money on something, listen to them, because they could tell you. And if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. It's completely fine. Every title isn't going to be something that everybody loves. Like I said, it's about getting those films out there and hoping for the best, that people enjoy it. But it's, essentially it all boils down to preservation. And I hope you enjoy what we're doing.
Well, I would say most people watching do. They are here because they appreciate you and all of your work. A lot of the questions that were asked on the side tonight, I saw one person mention that I didn't ask a lot of the questions. Brad's got a very specific job with Vinegar Syndrome, and a lot of that other stuff, it's other people's jobs. So we can talk about some more of that later. But in the meantime, I hope you come back someday. This was fantastic. Want to say to everybody also watching, I appreciate you, appreciate your time. One group that are real special, Brad just mentioned Patreon. We do have one for the channel, so I wanted to say thank you to these guys especially. You make everything that we do possible, and we do this every single Thursday, so make sure you come back. I know we got a lot of new people here tonight. And again, thanks, Brad. And to everybody else, have a good night.